Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody's well. Hope you've all had a fantastic weekend, and I hope your Monday is going well so far. Or those of you like VJ over the other side of the world, I hope your Tuesday has started off all right. So nice to see you all. How is everyone? How was your weekend? What have you been doing? Anybody had any games over the weekend? Anybody doing any hobby tonight? It'd be nice to find out what you're all up to. We'll start with a bit of a hello to the folks in the chat tonight. So hello, Peter Nicholas was in nice and early. Nice to see you. Hello to Tolmard Greybeard as well. Always one of the first folks in the chat on a Monday night. We got Peter Cooman in as well. Jacobson as well, saying I'm so excited that this is the topic. We'll come on to the topic in a little bit. We've also got Marcus the Super Pumpkin Man. Hello to you, sir. Ortega, hello in the rerun, mate, as you're watching this back. Andrew Cook, good evening. Another future boy there as well. Nice to see you in. Christian, good evening, sir. Hope you're well. Dave Mackay's in as well. Nice to see you, Dave. Ice Moon, good evening. Is it Michael or Mikhail? I think it could be Mikhail Roscom. Good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, whatever it is to you. I'm not sure whereabouts you are. Hello, Blizzaz as well. Hello, Nigel Jones. Al Cluley's in, saying this should be a spicy one. It's not intended to be controversial, mate. But there again, what the hell do I know? I've got my point of view on stuff and my ideas. I guess the controversy comes from whether people agree with me or not. We've also got Hope Lives in. Nice to see you. Colin Wakeland, good evening, sir. VJ, good morning to you. Hope you're well, mate. I assume that I always forget if you had your run or you're about to go on your run. I always forget which way around it is. Busey's in as well. Nice to see you, mate. I saw the temperatures over there in Spain looked a little bit warm. I hope you're not melting too much. Hello to Bobby Clark as well. Good evening to you. Chris Warden's in. As I jumped off my screen there. Ian, hello to you as well. VJ says, time for a cuppa and to start building these Veermen. Nice choice, sir. Kaylee Anderson, good evening to you, Kaylee. Somberlin's in as well, says, curious about new Kill Team. I'm not going to be kind of focusing too much on Kill Team specifically. I will be talking about it tonight, obviously. But it's something that's happened with Kill Team and with the Kill Team community that's prompted tonight's discussion. But I'm sure we'll get in and we'll be talking about Kill Team as well around it. Frederick Schultz, hello there to you as well. He's painting his Orc Catapult later. Yeah, VJ saying he's just crawled out of bed. I could never remember whether you're just back from a run or you're just about to go out on a run, mate. I always forget which way around it goes. Kaylee says, got an airbrush away to go, already a pro at reassembling it. Nicely done, Kaylee. Good evening, Frantic. Hello to you as well, Anna. Hope you're well. Yoakum says, good evening. He's trying to paint some minis tonight. It feels like it's been a while. It's nice to have a bit of a break sometimes, mate. You start to look forward to your hobby again, don't you? Sometimes it can get a little bit like almost like a full-time job, just painting all the time. So it's nice to have a bit of a break, even if it is to paint the house. Who else we got? Lord Technopants says, I like change. Love the feel of coins in my pocket. Andrew said he's freezing his arse off. -2. I guess it is your winter at the moment, isn't it? James Bray, good evening, mate. Hello to Michael Cowan as well. And VG says, I've switched over to evening runs until spring comes. I'm forgetting it's your winter, mate. Yeah, once we get a bit of sunshine, we forget the rest of the world's not like us. So I hope everybody is well. I hope you're all ready for tonight's chat. Tonight's chat, the main topic is about the fear of change. And I want to kind of talk about it in the context of miniature games and when games change and new editions come out and how people react to change and why people fear change. But I guess it also relates to kind of real world change, whether that's starting a new job, could be anything, new relationships, anything like that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of kind of life lessons there tucked away in that as well tonight. But what's kind of prompted it as well is about the new release of Kill Team, or the new announcement of a new release of Kill Team, and the reactions I've kind of seen online. But we'll get into that when we start talking about the main topic. We've got a nice little number of you in tonight. If you do want to hit the like button, that is very much appreciated. If you do like these streams and you want to see more of them, please do click the like button. And if you're not already subscribed, why not click the subscribe button too? So, what have I been up to this weekend? I might as well kind of start with that. Saturday, I had a bit of time to myself. My wife took my little one to to a birthday party. One of his friends had a birthday party at the weekend out in the garden, so I had a bit of time myself. So I was painting up. I can see them over there on my table. I was painting up the Empire of Dust Armada ships for Kings of War Armada. I'm making a kind of like a really simple how to paint video on how to do them really quickly, and basically I wanted to kind of show off a fleet of them in the video as part of that. So I'll kind of film it step by step on one particular ship, and then at the end of it I want to kind of show how it looks across a fleet of them. So I've been painting like all of the ships in the fleet. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 8 ships there that I was kind of painting simultaneously, kind of like batch painting them while I was sitting watching some Disney Plus stuff at the weekend. So that was my Saturday. I quite enjoyed that. Sunday I had a bit of a family day. I'm actually kind of toying at the minute with having a bit of a kind of no technology Sunday type thing, where we went to kind of like a local park and stuff like that, and went and had a coffee, and the little one was playing in the park and stuff like that. And I left my phone at home. I've got like an Apple Watch as well. I left my watch at home, so I didn't get any notifications, any messages, any texts, any kind of Twitter messages, any of that stuff, any Discord. I just left it at home all day. And it was quite cathartic, actually, just to have a day away from social media and away from kind of everything else. And then last night, obviously, I went to the pub with my oldest 2 boys to watch the Euros final, and unfortunately, it didn't end in our favour. But congratulations to any Italian fans that are watching. Jill says good evening as well. Hello to you, Jill. Stuart Murphy's in as well. Yeah, busy seeing watching the final, yeah. Tiberius, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Jill says, we'll be listening more than chatting tonight, but here and like. Thank you very much. And hello to Wayne Haywood as well. Says, hope everyone is well. Yeah, I hope everyone's well too. So, we might as well kind of start with the main topic tonight, shouldn't we? So, tonight's topic is about the fear of change, and about how people, especially when it comes to games and new editions, how they fear change, why they fear change, and actually, is it right to fear change? And the reason that this has come up as a topic, because when it comes to doing topics for these Monday night live streams, I always I scan around the internet, I look around Facebook forums, I look around and see what the general kind of what topics are creeping up, which is there anything that kind of sparks a bit of interest. And obviously the big news this weekend from Games Workshop was they are releasing a new version of Kill Team. And whilst the announcement at the weekend was very nice, I kind of watched that while I was kind of playing with a little one. It sparked over the last couple of days, it sparked this fear of change. And it's not everywhere. It's there's a mixture of people. Some people are really excited about it, but there are a small percentage of people who just seem absolutely scared to their back teeth about what does this mean for the game that I play and the game that I love already. And we'll come on to the Kill Team aspect of it as we go through the main topic. But when we talk about the fear of change, what causes people to fear change? And as I kind of mentioned briefly, it's not just relevant when it comes to gaming, and I'll make it relevant, but it's also relevant in your everyday life, whether that's the change of the way the world's changing now, kind of some lockdowns coming, some lockdowns opening up when it comes to COVID, if it comes to changing to a new job, all those kind of things, they all have this kind of fear of change. But we're going to specifically kind of aim it towards gaming tonight. So one of the things that people fear, and one of the reasons that they have fear about change, is because they have a fear of loss. And what I mean by a fear of loss is they fear about what they'll be losing. So will the parts of the game that they really enjoy, will they be removed? Will they change completely? Will the folks that I play the game with on a weekly or monthly basis, will they like the new version and will they go off and play something else? Or will I not like it, but they do, so they want to play it and I don't, kind of thing? And will it kind of fracture a community between the old version and the new version? And I think some see a change in the game as a bit of an attack on the game that they love. There's a lot of people have spent quite a lot of time to build up their kill team in this instance. They've spent time and money on buying expansions and buying models for kill teams and lovingly painting them and putting together tournament lists, because kill team can be quite a competitive game set. And I think that they feel this big threat of loss, that the thing that they've kind of poured their hobby time into is going to be taken away from them. I mean, if you think about like even minor changes in rules, Kill Team itself, as it is now, is going to change completely. It's not like a tweak. It's not like they're updating it. They have completely changed the rules. There will be some similarities in the way that it was. So some things will kind of stay similar, but that's just because it's set in a 40k universe. It looks like, from what we know, that the game is going to be very different. So if you think about like even minor changes like FAQs or errata, and how upset people get about that and what it does to their army, for example, you can imagine how people fear this idea of Games Workshop basically saying, we've got this brand new kind of rule set, we've developed it from the ground up, we've gone completely back to square one and started again. Of course, that's going to kind of ignite a bit of fear of change. Now, in my personal life, before I did this full time, which I do now, I've worked in kind of management roles in some big companies. And when you were about to go through a bit of a change process, if it's like kind of like new ways of working, sort of changing your location, downsizing, new projects, all this kind of thing, the thing that you're taught as a manager when you're trying to take people through this change process is that you have to anticipate how people might respond to this change and then listen to their concerns. So what you want to do is you want to kind of sit down with them, talk them through the change. Why are we changing? What's the change about? What's the outcome going to be? Why is it a good thing? That type of stuff. You need to give people the time to kind of absorb the change, and you kind of stress the positive side of things, if I'm honest. You tell them the truth, you make sure that you don't lie to them about this change, but you kind of stress the positives. Now, in terms of gaming, that's not always possible to do that. And it might be that the company is being intentionally vague because they might not want to kind of divulge all of the information straight away. They might have something to hide. Maybe the game's not quite as good as they wanted it to be. And it's not like these companies consult with the players to decide, like, so how do you feel about these changes? Are you happy with them before we go ahead? So it's not always easy to kind of manage it that way. But how these companies handle the announcements and how they kind of do their marketing does have a big role to play, and I'll come on to that as we go. Another reason kind of people fear this change when it comes to Kill Team and stuff and other games is there's a bit of confusion there as well. So people fear change if they don't understand it, or they don't understand, well, why is there a reason for it? And then they kind of start to resist the change. So in this instance, Kill Team's been quite happily played by quite a competitive community for some time now. The community have put a lot of work into getting it to a point where it is quite competitive and quite balanced. And Games Workshop haven't really technically supported it that well for quite some time now. We did have the Pariah Nexus release that came out not too long ago, but it wasn't really kind of, I don't think it was what the Kill Team community wanted. And then actually now with this announcement coming out, it almost looks like a little bit of a kick in the teeth to release that with this on the back of it. So I do kind of understand that, and the change causes uncertainty. It means pushing people out of their comfort zones a bit. And no matter how much we kind of complain about games becoming like stagnant and how we want sort of new releases and stuff, it's those routines, it's the familiarity with these games and the fact that we like how they play and the knowledge that we have of these games that makes us feel kind of quite secure in these games and why we keep coming back to play them. So the folks that love playing Kill Team how it is right now might not see the kind of the issues that the game has. It can be quite clunky, I think it's fair to say at times, but that they might overlook some of those issues, and so they don't really see a reason necessarily to change to a new edition. The next one is kind of, and I want to phrase this carefully when I say lack of competence. It's something that comes up when you talk about change, but it might not be as relevant when it comes to games. But people fear change if they're worried that they won't be able to play the new game, for example. Potentially sometimes changes can be so big that it makes the game quite complex, and people who are quite comfortable playing it now, it might make the game too long to play. It might make it like kind of rules heavy and not the kind of game that they're looking for. Conversely, it can also make it very simplistic, and people who are into this kind of quite granular, gritty rule set might actually kind of sort of just say, well, it's too simple. I don't want to play it anymore. But I think sometimes what happens is, rather than actually saying that this really is their concern, they kind of they don't want to say, well, it's too hard for me, or it's going to be too difficult for me. And I think they sometimes kind of sort of hide this approach a little bit and just kind of complain about it a bit. as I say, this is kind of less relevant with games so much, but in normal life and change, whether it's kind of changing to a new job or things are happening to you, if your boss comes in and says, right, we're going to completely restructure the department and this is going to work differently, I think people have a genuine fear of kind of like, well, I don't think I can do that. I've never been shown how to do that. So I think that happens a lot more in change in life, although it can exist within gaming as well. Another one is people kind of, this is going to make more work with for me kind of thing. So people fear change because they can see that it's going to create more work. And in the gaming context, it means that the lists that they've spent time building to maybe be competitive, or they've built this list and then they've put together this army or this kill team and they've lovingly painted it and they've spent time and money and they've maybe got sort of like some little specialist parts. They might have sculpted some stuff. They might have searched around in bits boxes and online to get these certain bits that they wanted. And then all of a sudden they can't use them anymore. So of course it's going to create more work for people. So change does take time, and inevitably people are going to have to kind of sort of test some new approaches to the rules. People also fear losing control as well. So they feel that they're going to lose control over the game that they love. The people that are most excited about the changes in Kill Team are the people that are not necessarily enjoying Kill Team as it is now. And I think there's a big chunk of people, myself included, who kind of, I enjoyed Kill Team when I first started playing it, but as it kind of grew lots of expansions and became a bit more convoluted, it didn't really turn out to be the game that I hoped it would. And that's my personal opinion on the game, so I kind of stopped playing it. So I think there are people like me who are potentially looking forward to this change. But there are a lot of people who really, really think that Kill Team's great. It needed the few rough edges knocking off it. It needed some addition of stuff to kind of to improve it and give it a bit more kind of longevity, as opposed to a complete rehaul. This is almost, in a maybe smaller sense, a little bit like getting rid of Warhammer Fantasy and bringing in Age of Sigmar. I appreciate you can still use the same models and stuff, but it is completely changing the game. It's not going to be the same game that people are playing now. So I think it's just they feel like the change is being done to them. And I think they feel a bit powerless, really. So during any change, when people are changing things like this, information is power. And if people don't feel that they've got enough information to kind of, about the new rules, about when it's coming out, what the price is going to be, all these kind of things, they feel that things are being kept from them and that the game isn't going to be as good as the last one. They instantly start to focus on the negative side rather than the positive. And what happens is any gaps in people's knowledge gets filled with rumours and gossiping, and YouTube channels start trying to kind of like, they try to guess what they think it's going to be, and Facebook groups start pitching in ideas, and then you get like chatter on Reddit and stuff. And this is fine. It's fun to sort of hypothesize about what you think it can be, but sometimes that can lead to people kind of getting the wrong end of the stick and then it becoming really fearful about something that actually they don't know anything about. So the thing to kind of remember is, do I know enough to be worried about this? Or is it just kind of hearsay? Is it just internet chatter? Now, in the instance of Kill Team, Glass Half Dead has done a good video where him and some others have put a lot of time in to try and kind of take some snapshots from the reveal video at the weekend and try and break down what they think they've saw and kind of make a best guess on it. And I watched the video today, and I think they've done a pretty decent job of trying to kind of analyse it. But we must stress that they haven't got the full rule book. The folks that have been trying to kind of analyse this, there might be some context that's missing, like there's something on a page that we haven't seen that makes something play completely differently. So I think you have to kind of take some of this with a grain of salt and also be kind of a little bit, there's nothing wrong with being wary about change, but I wouldn't say you have to fear change. Change can be, like fearing change can be like an irrational fear if you don't have the information to be able to kind of make a rational decision on it. If you're frightened of a change of something purely based upon the fact that change is coming, then it's kind of irrational. If you know everything about the change and it's really not what you want, then it's rational. You're entitled to kind of have that kind of fear of it. But I think we just need to sometimes sort of let these things play out. And as I said before, I think the way that the games are marketed, the way that they're kind of explained by the companies that change them, goes a long way to stopping this kind of this fear. So what can companies do different that would kind of kill some of this sort of fear of change? They can give some information out early. They can give folks time to get used to the fact that change is coming, and not feel like they've been tricked. I've seen a few things on Facebook over the last couple of days where people are saying, oh, well, it's only a month ago I bought the Kill Team rulebook, and I bought Pariah Nexus, and I've bought the Elites expansion, and I've bought Commanders, and I've been painting some stuff up to get it ready, and I've not even had my first game yet. And I know these are kind of few and far between, but if Games Workshop tend not to give people a lot of notice on this type of stuff. Yes, there's been rumours about a new Kill Team coming, but not everybody's all over the internet. Not everybody's all over every group, kind of like looking at the rumours and kind of suggestions. So I can imagine there are some people who feel a bit aggrieved about this type of stuff. It's happened before with things like codexes, where a new codex comes out, and then not long after it, another codex comes out to replace it. I think recently we've had a couple with things like Sisters of Battle, I think, was something like that. And I think off the top of my head, the what they called, the Cow Elves, I forget their name now. I think they basically had, I thought I'd remember the name, but I haven't. I think they had something similar as well. The other thing, and one of the big things I think they can do, is if they share the rules or share more about the rules quite early in the process. Now, I was quite disappointed, actually. I'm not that excited for Kill Team. I'll be perfectly honest and upfront about it. But I did watch the GW stream of the weekend more for information, and I was really disappointed that they show this great trailer. They show the little trailer about all the different components in the box. They literally went through an unboxing live on the stream, which kind of is what all the YouTube channels normally do when they get all their stuff 5 minutes before release. However, they did not mention the rules at all. And it was almost a case of, look at all these cool models, like don't worry about the rules. You can worry about that later. We're going to drip feed you some information over the next few weeks about that. I would have liked to have seen more information. Like if they'd said like, these are the sort of like, these are the big 5 talking points about the new rules or something like that. It would have been nice to present people who are interested and excited by it or worried about it with more information about what the changes are. Because models are models. At the end of the day, yes, they're beautiful models and people love them and they love seeing the new shiny toys. But the folks that really kind of kept this game alive and the folks that have really been invested in Kill Team are worried about the changes to the game. And I personally think Games Workshop and other companies that kind of release updated rule sets and things could actually give a little bit more information up front to let people kind of digest some of that stuff. So what can we do as gamers, as consumers, as customers of these companies? What can we do to try and kind of get over that fear of the fear of change? The first thing is we should wait for the facts. We should wait for the full information. It is fun to speculate, like I said before, but don't take rumours and speculation as facts. You often in communities get this what's called groupthink, which is essentially one vocal person has this idea and a couple of other people go, yeah, I agree with that as well. I think it could be that. And before you know it, like ideas have become fact. And like I've seen a lot of it with this Kill Team where some people saying, oh, they're just turned it into Warcry. And some people saying, well, it's nothing like Warcry. It's just this bit's like Warcry. We've seen a smattering of the rules, and it looks like some of the things are inspired by Warcry as opposed to they've just taken the Warcry rules and dumped them into Kill Team. So I think just remember, like, it's fun to speculate, it's fun to guess, it's fun to see if you were right about something, and it's nice to kind of like see little glimpses of stuff like we've seen with some of these kind of zoomed in pictures from the stream. But until you've got the full picture, like, don't overreact to it. You can also look for the positives, not the negatives. No game ever is perfect. There's no such thing as the perfect game. So even the one that you play now and the one that's your favourite will have some parts of it that can be improved upon. So when you see this new stuff coming, try to look for the things actually that are positive for you, and it just reframes your sort of your mind a little bit to not look for the negative stuff and then not fear this change that's coming. Because at the end of the day, change has to happen, doesn't it? Like, we have, like, at the end of the day, these companies make money, and I mean all companies, not just Games Workshop. They all make money by selling new things. And Games Workshop has a routine of every 3 years or so updating their major rule sets, which is kind of happening with this. 2018, I think it was, Kill Team came out. 2021, we've got this new version. And they make changes, and it generates new books to buy, and it generates new excitement, and it generates more money. So understanding that change is always going to happen, and that basically you have a choice basically, to kind of to just get on board with that change, or just stay and play the game that you always did. And another thing, kind of, or the last thing I would say, is that sometimes understanding why the change is happening. Like I say, it might be to fix a game that's not performing very well, purely from like the rules have got a bit bloated and they become a little bit unwieldy. Or, as I said before, it might be just the company needs to kind of make some more money. And sometimes just understanding why the change is happening just takes the edge off that fear of the unknown, if you like. So that's what I wanted to kind of talk about tonight, really, but just about this fear of change. I think people are frightened about there being a big change when it comes to Kill Team, but we see this with every rule set. We see this with the latest edition of AOS 3, which just recently released. We saw some of this chatter when N4 for Infinity released. We see it when Kings of War upgraded to a 3rd edition. Even though they're not massive changes, when something's coming, and it tends to be something relatively big within that game's kind of life cycle, people start to fear that change. So yeah, just think about, am I rationally thinking about this? Am I getting upset, or am I getting fearful of things that haven't happened yet? Or do I have some genuine concerns because I now understand the full picture, and I've kind of made a rational decision about whether this is something I'm kind of concerned about? So folks, let's dive back into the chat here and see what's going on. If I can find out where we were up to on the charts. There we were, wasn't it? John Ashley Smith just coming in saying, good day, Blackjack Legacy, how's things? I'm very good, thanks very much, mate. VJ saying, as I said on Discord, the best thing about new versions is that no one is taking your old books away and burning them. If you don't like the new one, just play the old one. I do completely agree with that. But I think it also feeds into that kind of fear of change about, well, what happens if half of my group don't want to move to the new one and half of the group do? I think people get fearful that they're going to start losing their friends that they kind of play against on a regular basis, if you like. They're not losing their friends, but they're going to end up playing completely different games. We all know the amount of people that play certain games purely based upon the fact that, not that the game's brilliant, just that they're going to get regular games. Their local community might all play Infinity, or their local community might all play 40k, whatever it is. People pick up these games because they can get regular games in, not necessarily because it's the best game or the game that they enjoy the most. Let's have a little scroll down, see what the chart's about. I'll clearly see in fear of nerf. Don't fear the nerfer. Don't fear the reaper. That's what's in my head now. John saying, I'm happy about this new edition and starter box. I missed out last time. I think there are a lot of people, I think, are just excited about something new coming out. But like, as I said in the main topic, I think a lot of those folks either just want the models that's inside. The rules are almost secondary. They want the new, I forget what they're even called now, the new veteran kind of guardsman type thing with the masks on. Their names escape me now. Death Corps of Krieg, that's what they are. Or they want the new orcs. So I think some people just literally want the new stuff. They want the new orc terrain and things. But there are some people who are genuinely quite worried that this is kind of the end of the road, the sky's falling kind of thing. Johnson, yeah, new Commandos and Plastic Krieg, what's not to like besides the price, which we haven't heard yet. And again, we don't know anything about the price. It'll be a little while before we hear about that. But if I'm guessing, if I'm a betting man, £125 seems to be that kind of that sweet spot at the minute where a lot of these boxes come in. It feels like they've pushed the price up from the £85-90 that we used to pay. It feels like 125 is that kind of that intro box, that starter box. Would it surprise me if they put up a little bit more? It wouldn't surprise me, but I think 125 is probably where we're going to see this. Andy Smith, hello to you, mate. VG says it was a bit of a failed rule set. I know not everyone would agree, but with low points cost, 40k 9th coming around, I think it's purely from my own personal perspective. I always really wanted Kill Team to be its own game. I wanted it to be something different from 40k, and it was probably a little bit too closely linked for what I was looking for personally. But the people that play it absolutely love the game. I think they've knocked some of the rough edges off as a community when it comes to a competitive list. They've found something that seems to work. And those folks really enjoy the game. It doesn't matter if I think it's clunky. It doesn't matter if somebody else thinks it's convoluted. It doesn't matter if somebody else thinks that there's too many dice rolls. At the end of the day, the folks that play it absolutely love it. And I can understand why they're a bit fearful of the change of this. VGC Necromunda still being supported and still having the current edition. I only see a new version of Kill Team as a positive. I think, like I say, as somebody who doesn't play Kill Team now, then like I can see that. I think that there's tweaks needed, if you like. I'm not sure it needed a whole complete overhaul. I think they could have done something with what they already had, but that's Games Workshop's choice. Lord Technopan says I got the OG Kill Team box, which I was very happy about, but it could do with some updating and streamlining. I wouldn't disagree. I think others would, but I wouldn't disagree. Zingbo, good evening, says I think the new edition of Kill Team looks very promising. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people are excited by the fact that it is something new for Kill Team. They like the content of the box, and they kind of like the idea of some of the things they heard. Personally, I would like to see a fuller picture of the rules before deciding whether I think it's a good idea or a bad idea, personally. But there are some things that they've announced that I think are good ideas. There's some things I've seen that I still would have preferred streamlining a bit more. VGC, especially given some of the interesting new mechanics that are being speculated about. Yeah. Radix says no one's taking your old books away, but it's always harder to find players. I think that's always it. I think it's always something that's levied at players when a change is coming. It's going like there's no kind of like sort of edition police coming around and taking all your old stuff away. But we all know it's nice. It's nice to play the latest version. It's nice when everybody's on the same page, all playing the same game, kind of thing. And whilst they technically are not taking away all your stuff, I still kind of play X-Wing version 1 because I play with like my sons or something like that. I'm not going out to stores and playing against strangers. I'm not going to tournaments. So for me, I kind of treat it like a board game, if you like. I don't buy any more ships for it. I play with the same ships we've got. But it's kind of like a board game experience. Anybody that is super competitive on this game, like the choice is kind of taken out of their hands. They have to get on board with the new edition. Unless the new edition is so bad that that tournament community just goes, no, we're staying with what we've got. Low Technopanty, I already want to paint the measuring gauges. That's a bit of a weird move, I'll be honest. The measuring gauges is something where it's like, it's not really needed, but I'll reserve judgment until I kind of see how it fits with the full rules. VGC in the box was great value, and I'm glad I bought it. Yeah, I bought the original Kill Team box as well. I did actually enjoy it when I first played it, but I think I enjoyed it because we streamlined it and took a lot of the stuff out, a lot of the complexities. Unfortunately, when you kind of play with a wider group, it's not always easy to kind of to house rule everything. John says, I'm hearing a compendium will be required to play anything other than what's in the box, which seems odd since the old rulebook contained all the faction lists. There's a few things being mentioned. So what will come with the core book is we'll have the stats in for the models that's in the box, which is a bit weird, really. I wish they'd either had all of the stats in the book, or they had none of the stats in the book, and that when you bought that starter box, if you like, there was a separate kind of leaflet in there with the rules for those models. That way, if you buy the core book, which I assume is going to be standard, there's not going to be a different core book versus the one that comes in that box. It would have been easier to do it that way. The other thing that we're seeing as well, we know for a fact on launch day there's going to be another book that comes out alongside the release, which has all of the stats in for all of the other models that they're going to have in Kill Team, certainly initially. But we also haven't seen any points costs, so I'm wondering whether we're seeing something like the way 40k doesn't have points costs on their stats, but has them all at the back of like what's it called, the chapter approved type thing. So I'm wondering if we'll see something like that. In that way, they just basically keep updating that chapter approved type book every year with points lists and stuff like that. Ian says, when games change, I have a fear of losing money as the models I have since been nerfed, cut, and now I need to buy new things, though it's been a lot better since I started playing mini agnostic games. I think it's people will feel like the models that they have they can't use anymore. I don't think it's strictly true. There's always going to be the odd model. I think that's not porting over this time, but I think generally you'll just have to use them in a different way. But then people have got so used to building competitive lists and things that they're a bit upset about that there's been a massive change and stuff. And I do get that. I mean, I'm not kind of like sort of, I'm not saying that that's irrational. If you spend time and money and effort in putting together kind of like a special kind of army or a special list or something, and then all of a sudden you can't use them models anymore, that's a bit shit, to be fair. Tony Howell, good evening, mate. He's saying it's interesting getting a box of the Death Corps when they come out. I'm sure they'll be out pretty soon afterwards, mate. And John saying, yeah, tape measures replaced with measuring sticks or something like that. I'm used to that, but now how ranges are measured in Gaslands. I think the problem is what looks slightly confusing is they've gone down the symbols route again. So what you've got is you've got a 4-sided template for movement, which has symbols on 3 sides. I think off the top of my head, there's a circle, a triangle, and a square. I think it is. And I think that they refer to 1 inch, 2 inch, and 3 inch. And essentially what it'll do is it'll say something like on the stat line, this model moves square, which might be 2 inch off the top of my head, for example. So then basically, so your model moves the distance that the square side of the template is. And then there's a range ruler type thing, which looks to be 6 inches long. And I think it's got a hexagon on it. So that'll be used for things potentially like sort of ranges of fire or something like that. Or maybe, I think I saw something like in some of the scenarios, you might have to be within, say, like square distance of the what's it called? Of the, like the target type thing. I forget what the word. The objective, that's the word I was trying to think of. So it does seem a little bit weird. I'm not really sure why they've brought that in. I don't know. It feels like it's change for change's sake. It doesn't feel as kind of slick as something like Marvel Crisis Protocol or something like Star Wars Legion, where you've got these kind of like sort of bendy sticks, which are basically short, medium, and long range. That feels a bit easier to kind of to get your head around, like S, M, and L. So I'm sure in practice you'll very quickly get used to it. But if something is like 2 squares distance, you're having to go like, well, there's 1 square, and then I'm putting another one, and there's another square, rather than just saying, look, maximum range is kind of long or something like that. So yeah, again, until we see it in practice, no idea how it's going to do. But on first inspection and first kind of idea, it just feels like it's an idea for being an idea's sake, as opposed to actually sort of being like sort of like a big breakthrough. Like tape measures were never really an issue, were they? Let's be honest. Lord Technopantsy, I always wanted some Death Corps, but never bought anything for Forge World. I quite like the models, I'll be honest. I do quite like them, and I think if they'd been available in plastic in the past, I might have bought some just to paint. But I think that kind of ship sailed now. I'm not that excited about them anymore now. But I certainly wasn't buying any from Forge World back in the day when I did like them. Greg Cherry, good evening, Greg. He says, glass half dead, and the people that decoded information are probably 80-90% correct. I think this is the problem. They are... I think they're probably right about the stuff that they've seen. What we don't know is how much they haven't seen. And the problem is you can take things out of context by just kind of reading a paragraph without understanding how that is affected by other rules, for example. So I think from what they've seen, from what they've kind of talked about, I think they're probably bang on. But I think there's some context in how those rules are interpreted, how they're used, how they work with the different objectives, with the different scenario type things, what the cards are. Well, I don't think people know what the cards are in the packs yet. So there's still a bit of guesswork in there. And this is why I think it's fun to speculate, as I said in the main kind of topic. It is fun to speculate, and I think those folks that have kind of put the effort in to decode that kind of stuff have done a really, really good job of it. But you still have to kind of take it with a pinch of salt and just think, look, I haven't got the full picture. If it sounds like it's going to be something I'm not interested in, Just wait and see the full picture first, because we will start to get more information from GW. Unfortunately, we never get to see the full impact until it's released, and then everybody's kind of like, you get that for like that week or 2 weeks of everybody being up in arms and stuff before they've moved on and kind of accepted it or moved on. Yeah, Kaylee's saying, yeah, kangaroo elves, that's the ones. Luminous Realm knows, that's the ones. I couldn't remember the names. Or cow elves as well. They have their horns on their head. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, talking about plastic Death Corps. BG says, I mean, supplementing that with a book that lets you play all your existing minis is good for those of us who have them. Yeah, I mean, versus what they did with Warcry, where each warband got like a kind of like a card pack. I wouldn't say that bringing it out as a book is the wrong thing to do. I think it's just a shame that it's not part of the original book. And I'm sure I've read about this before in the past from Games Workshop. Is one of the reasons that they released them as separate books is because they're still tweaking some of the stuff. So, for example, the core book needs to go inside the box, and then that box needs to be shipped all over the world. It needs to be packaged, and they might not have settled on kind of points costs or stat lines at that point. So what they're doing is they're separately working on the other book, and they have more time to work on it because that one doesn't have to go to be packaged. Like, let's say it gets printed in China, it comes to the UK, somebody in the UK packages all of those boxes, which takes a hell of a lot of time. Then those boxes get sent all over the world. That might have a much longer timeline to get them ready. The book with just the points costs in and all the other army lists and things has a longer timeline, which gives them more time to work on it, which gives them more times to technically get it right. And that's also one of the reasons why they separate these books. Another reason is the fact they can sell 2 lots of stuff instead of 1 as well. So it's money motivated as well. But there's sometimes a technical reason why that's the case as well. Yeah, Lord Technopants, they're saying GW could have at least summarised the rule change in the stream a bit. That's the one thing I would say that I was hugely disappointed with, was the fact that they basically spent about an hour showing us plastic sprues in a box. Now, people that are worried about this changing and about this being a big change from what they're used to playing are not necessarily that fussed about seeing the plastic sprues in as much detail as they showed. They spend so much time showing off the minis and no time at all really talking about the rules. I almost got the impression he wasn't even really supposed to flick through the rule book and show people stuff. Like, it was almost kind of like a bit of a mistake to do that based upon the way they're going to sort of drip feed. Like, we know how Warhammer community do stuff. They, like tomorrow they might say, oh, this is how movement works. And then basically 2 or 3 days later, oh, this is how shooting works, kind of thing. And they'll drip feed that leading up to the time, which gives them more content to talk about. So I do know from a marketing point of view why they do it. But from a kind of interacting with your consumer base and making them feel a bit at ease, like actually the world's not falling kind of thing, I do wish that they'd spent a little bit more time on the stream talking about some of the rules and the changes. VG said, I mean, getting the info for free would be nice, but the card model for Warcry didn't work, so I think a supplement book isn't a bad move. The card model worked all right, actually, but I think the problem was they never reprinted the cards. So things like the Oryx sold out and then they never reprinted them. So then that's why that was a bad move. But that's just because they didn't reprint them. It's not because the card packs were cheap enough that it wasn't a problem, kind of thing. Ian says, from the olden days, GW lost all his trust with me. Squats, Chaos Dwarves, end of fantasy battle. Seems like they handled everything in the worst way possible. I think that's probably, I mean, your personal sort of feelings are obviously your own personal feelings, but I think it's quite a negative way to look at it. I think basically they're a business. They work on selling new things, making changes, trying to improve things. I suppose I can't imagine they ever set out to negatively impact the game on purpose. It's just that actually, if you've been burned by that, I can imagine that you're frustrated by that type of stuff. Lee says, did GW announce the rule changes in 40k or AOS? Pretty sure they didn't. I think there's always rumours that there's a change coming. Hello, Lee, by the way. There's always rumours of changes coming. They tend to say there's a big announcement coming. And I think with the bigger games, they tend to give a bit more time prior to the change happening. But again, they don't go into any details. They start drip feeding information, and it's not until things get leaked or the book gets into the hands of people like Ash Barker, and he kind of does a bit of a deep dive on his stream. But normally what happens is they get them the same day that pre-orders go live. So if you really want that box set, you've got to get in at 10 o'clock and buy it. This one's going to be another one as well. We might get onto the fact that it's a limited run as well this time. When it's gone kind of thing. They basically... you've already pre-ordered it, or you've had to pre-order it before you even get the full information about what you're actually what the game's about. And I always feel that's a little bit disingenuous, really. I think a lot of other companies tend to share more. They might have some playthroughs, they might have a bit of a deep dive, they might have kind of showed some like they might have kind of sort of sent it out to some of the bigger YouTube channels to have a playthrough and to kind of show it off beforehand, before release, to get people excited to kind of to pre-order it. I think the difference with GW is they almost don't have to create that hype. The hype's already there for it, and it doesn't really matter what the rules are like. People are going to buy that regardless, and the fact that they know it's going to sell out and the scalpers will be out and all that kind of stuff, it basically just kind of, it sells out regardless a bit. John's saying he was under the impression the original rulebook contained the playable models of every current faction. This new edition seems to not have that. It kind of did. I mean, obviously there was some expansions like Elites and Commanders, plus the new stuff that came in 9th edition was only, like the new Marines and the new Necrons was only available in the prior Nexus set. So it was a bit convoluted by the end a bit. But technically, if you could just buy the core rulebook and there's enough in there just to kind of play straightforward games. Radix in there. Kill Team needed an overhaul. I just don't trust GW to do it right. I can't really disagree or agree with that, mate, to be fair. I mean, it's GW know a lot more about game design than I ever will. I'm not a huge player of their games. People that love their games will love what they've done. People that are not a fan of their games probably won't buy it. So it's a bit of a moot point, really, I think. Ranzarok, good evening to you. Says, I'm not as close to the hobby as you are, so I'm curious. Are people afraid of change or upset with how the change comes about? In this case, mate, I think there's been rumours that there's been a new edition of Kill Team coming for quite some time. So I don't think they're upset by the fact that there is change coming. I think they're almost a bit upset by it's not that they didn't expect it. I think it's the size of the change. I don't think they were expecting a full new kind of right of the rules, like completely change all the stat lines, completely change the way the game works. I don't think people were really expecting that. I think they were expecting a bit of a tidy up and maybe a streamlining of some things, but that it effectively was the same game. What seems to be happening is that this is essentially a completely different game. It's almost like if you think about what AOS Skirmish was when they brought it out in that kind of like the little kind of rulebook thing. AOS Skirmish to Warcry. It's Kill Team in name only, really. It's a completely different rule set, and I think that's the bit that, because people don't have all the information, I think that's what they're fearful of. And as I said before, I think it's the community that have put a lot of time and effort into keeping the game alive through the competitive circuit that are the ones that are probably most worried and fearful about this. Marcus is saying, to me, the reason we do like change, at least when it comes to GW games, is that some people have found a broken list and are very competitive. I think that's probably a bit harsh, to be fair. I think people enjoy their hobby however they like it, and some people like to be ultra competitive. And if they've put a lot of time in and effort to find that list, I wouldn't say it's broken, but maybe it's kind of a bit of a loophole or whatever. If they've put time and effort into finding that, and the games company haven't fixed it, then that's what they enjoy. They enjoy kind of unpicking the puzzle. And if it's a competitive environment where the idea is to be the kind of the winner of the tournament, there's nothing wrong with that, really. But I don't think that's why they kind of fear change. I think it's just the fact that they're going to have to learn a completely different game, and the things that worked in the old game won't work in this game, really. Ice Moon says people tend to be very vocal when it comes to GW. I think that's just because they're popular. I mean, I think I don't think it's necessarily a GW, like, it's not because it's GW, it's because there are lots of people who play GW games that it just makes the noise louder. I think that's generally that's the whole thing. I'll just skip ahead a little bit here because I think I'm way behind here. Let's just dive into a couple of bits. Tom Ryan, hello mate. He says the mechanics seem to take from better games, which is a good thing. I think better is a subjective thing, but I do get what you mean. Ian Inman, good evening to you as well. He says Kill Team was far too close to 40k and many of the unit rules didn't work on smaller tables. Better to do like what they did with Warcry. I think the people, as I said before, I think it's the people that didn't like Kill Team as it is are the ones that are happy about this. The ones that are fine with Kill Team as it is are the ones that kind of fear this change a bit, if you like. Craig McHugh, nice to see you as well, mate. Jill saying the people most excited about new kill team are people who weren't playing. Yeah, I think that's exactly the case there. And saying next year it might be Warcry's turn. I don't disagree. I think at some point like they'll need to reboot Warcry. It's been a bit quiet for a little while. It doesn't need anything new, to be fair. If people are playing it and enjoying it, it's fine. I don't think there's anything technically broken with Warcry, but yeah, it doesn't sell stuff to just kind of leave things as they are, does it? Ranzarok saying some people may ask why did they release Pariah Nexus if they knew they were releasing the rule set within 6 months? Why not just sell the plastic? I think that's exactly why they do it, mate, just to sell the plastic. I think what they tend to do with a lot of these sets is basically if they know they're going to sell a big amount of a box set, like they will do with this, you make some new terrain, you make some new models, and then that way you recoup the cost of those molds very, very quickly by selling it all in a box. And once it's gone, it's gone. And if you want to buy the contents of that, you then have to buy the kind of the stock item, by which point they've paid for that manufacturing process to get those new things done. It's something GW have always done. I just don't think people necessarily notice it. It's why you tend to get new terrain comes in these big boxes. It doesn't just suddenly get released and it's available to kind of buy type thing. Ian saying anyone who got first turn charged by Harlequins knows kill team didn't work. Peter saying I just have to look at the new kill team set. Nice, shiny, where's my wallet? I'll be honest, I don't think I'm going to buy this. I think I might potentially check out the rule book just to kind of see what it's about and stuff when it releases, but I'm just not kind of caught up in that hype for the GW stuff these days. I know for a fact if I don't buy it, I won't get that box. And I know for a fact if I wanted all the things inside it, buying that box on launch is the most cost effective way to do it. But I'm just not that engaged by all the stuff. I'll want to read the rules at some point, but I can take or leave the stuff that's in the box, to be fair. Anna says, I'm hoping they make Warcry style warbands like they did with the Warcry OG warbands. There have been some really unique and characterful models and groups. I've heard that is kind of the plan. I think what they'll do is they will sell boxes that are kill team ready. We've never had that in the past with kill team. The stuff that they've released tends to have like 5 models in it and a bit of terrain or something like that. And then you had to add to that. It was like a starter kill team, if you like, that you still had to buy more models for. I can see them releasing some unique sculpts, some interesting stuff, a little bit like the Gaunt's Ghosts type stuff. It wouldn't surprise me if that type of stuff ends up having kind of kill team rules. And I think that's potentially what they will do. There's going to be more list building, I think, in Kill Team than there is in Warcry. There's more kind of weapon options and things like that. But I think essentially, that sales model of selling everybody a box of kind of 10 miniatures, if you like, as opposed to kind of selling a box of 5 and chucking a bit of terrain in and then making them buy more stuff. I think it's going to be a way of introducing new stuff into 40k as well. Radix says, I think N4 was universally praised as an incremental improvement over N3. Yeah, I'm not saying that basically people are necessarily, that rule sets are not an improvement. For example, like Malifaux version 3 was an improvement over version 2. But what they did was they released the rules early as a beta for everybody to kind of check out and stuff. And they do that because the rules are free online anyway. So that way, there's not this kind of fear of like, oh no, there's a big change coming. It's like, well, here's the rules, have a look at them. And I think the thing with N4 is I think people were, as they always do, a little bit fearful of change. But by that point, they'd already seen the Code 1 stuff come out. They saw where the game was going. So again, it's like if you communicate what your changes are going to be and you communicate them early enough and you give people enough information to make a judgment on it, be that positive or negative, I think that kind of like fear of the unknown never comes about. It always seems to happen with GW stuff for a couple of reasons. One, they don't give you enough information to kind of have all of the facts. And there's such a big community that basically everybody piles in with their ideas and all of a sudden kind of like suggestions and ideas become fact. Silencer, hello to you. So new kill team will be tile hex based. No, it won't be. It's going to be normal kind of movement, but you're going to use like a measuring template to do those movement. So instead of it being sort of like a 3-inch move, it'll be like the long edge of a movement template, which has like a symbol on it, like a square or a triangle or whatever. As Kaylee says there, sounds like a PlayStation controller. It definitely sounds like that. Tom McCall says there's 2 books in the box, Core book, which I think is the rules, and Octarius manual, which I think is the stats book. I don't think that's the case, mate. Hello, welcome to the chat, by the way. I think that what they showed on the stream on Saturday, they showed the main core book, and as they flicked through it, the stats for the models that were in the box were inside there. I think the Octarius manual is kind of like a scenario type thing. It's like a, you know, like a little kind of narrative story thing to play with the models in that box. So I'm 90% certain, I could be wrong on this, but I'm sure when they flicked through the main core book, that's what he was showing off that had the stats in. I might have missed it. Maybe it was the other book. But it would make sense to not have the stats in the core book, if I'm perfectly honest. Although I suppose they'll put them in the other book as well. Johnson went back when second edition changed to third. My group was really unhappy having to plink off all kinds of weapons, and their models were no longer allowed rather than buy new models. I think there are people worrying about that now as well. About like some people are saying, well, it's just a few weapon swaps or something. It's like, well, yeah, but where the hell do I get these weapons from? It doesn't work like that kind of thing. Let's have a look. Hello, Animus as well, saying really excited for the new kill team system. Tom saying only reason for using templates on movement is they're now measuring from front of base to back of base, effectively leapfrogging the movement tool. Yeah, I get that, but at the end of the day, it's still just measuring, isn't it? I mean, it's the way Star Wars Legion works. It's the way Marvel Crisis Protocol works, using that kind of movement template. But their movement templates are like that for a reason. I just think like moving around terrain and stuff is going to be a lot more of a bit of a fanny on moving those templates around. Like if you move around terrain in Star Wars Legion or in Marvel Crisis Protocol, you bend the template like to a 90-degree thing, and you can move along that path if you like. These are not going to work like that. So it sounds like it's going to be a little bit of a fanny on, if I'm perfectly honest. James is saying all the stat cards for the included minis actually in the core book. There's also an Octarius manual in there, and that's how Indomitus included the stats. It would make sense to do it that way, mate. But the way they flicked through the book on the weekend, unless I missed it, it looked like they were in the core rule book. I don't think they actually picked up the Octarius book unless I missed that when I was watching the stream. Either way, they're in the box. They're in the box anyway. VG says link above has an image of the game that uses the new kill team stat cards but on a hex mat. It's basically, I forget what it's called, mate, but it's one of those Barnes and Noble games where basically they kind of had a bit of a butchered version of somewhere between Warcry, Underworld and Kill Team, which was one of those Barnes and Noble box sets. Matthew Hanley, good evening. Says, honestly, the larger dice pools and static defense pools are going to improve how the game feels. Models will feel a lot more productive. I agree, mate. I like that about Warcry. I like the fact that there's not too many rolls. You're basically you're rolling a pool of dice. Your opponent's trying to defend with a few dice. And basically there's so many so many successes, and then you start looking at how many got through and what. I think it's a step more. It's a step on from Warcry, if you like, with a bit more kind of opposed rolls. But yeah, it sounds better than the current version. I would certainly give that. Lord Technopan says, I'm interested in the ideas, as we are interpreting them, of the new rules, but they seem naff. I'll probably leave it. But I'm trying your optimism instead of prejudging. I think that's the case, mate. I think that's kind of what you have to do. At the end of the day, we can either choose to be to get all frustrated and all angry and be really scared about what's coming without knowing any of the facts, or we can choose to be optimistic and hope for the best and and then when we do know, then make a judgment. Like as I said before, kind of look at the positive aspects. What are the aspects of the game that might actually be exactly what you're looking for, and try and focus on some of those ones. Nick says, damn, I'm late. Warcry 2 when? Oh, I think we're a little way off Warcry 2, mate, but it's got to happen at some point. That's how they make money, isn't it? Releasing a new box set and sort of bringing more stuff out. But I think Warcry's in a good place. I don't think it needs a massive kind of overhaul or anything like that. Marcus is here, by the way. Congrats, Italy. Yeah, congrats to you, mate. I'm really pleased with you. And I'm not saying that through gritted teeth either. I think it was a really good game, mate, and I enjoyed watching it. And it's a shame that that's how the game has to end on penalties. But yeah, congrats, mate, to you and the Italians. Thibault says, Warcry plays great. Don't think it needs a 2.0. Yeah, I agree, mate. I don't think it needs a 2.0 either. But that, like as I said before, that's how they make money, a new edition and new releases and all that kind of stuff. So who knows? I think at some point in the future, we probably will get that. Jimmy Morosco, good evening, says it's all about the minis. I haven't been building and painting rules. I haven't been building and painting rules in the past lockdown year. Don't get me wrong, rules need to be good, but they're never perfect. Hello, Jamie, by the way. I kind of disagree. It's not all about the minis. I mean, otherwise, why bother? Why bother changing the rules? Why bother updating it? Just bring out a new Kill Team starter set with the new models in and some new terrain. Why bother changing the rules, if you like? If that was the case. Like, this has took time and money and effort and research to come up with a new rule set. So it might be, for you personally, you just want the models. And I'm sure a lot of people, especially 40k players, probably just want the models and the terrain. But actually, for players of Kill Team, this is a really big deal. It's changing the game that they love to something that they don't know enough about, really, to decide whether it's a positive change for them. Frontex says, don't underestimate the amount of people that wanted to see each sprue. There were questions about how many heads and shovels. There's always questions like that, mate. I mean, and they're very selective about which questions they pick out. The problem is that kind of stuff can be done in the community post by showing some pictures later on. I think it was really disappointing personally to not even mention the rules, not even show a stat line. Like, it was like somebody asked to show one of the stats off, and they kind of like brushed it under the carpet and completely ignored it. So there was definitely like an intention to not talk about the rules at all. It wasn't like an oversight. It's like, we're not going to tell you about it now. And I just think when you're announcing something new like that, it would have been at least kind of cursory or courtesy even to actually give us some information about that top stuff. Joshua Hash, hello, Joshua, says GW missed a huge opportunity to include a new Kill Team 2.0 datasheet for Gorn's Ghost in that box set long before anything else was announced. They might have included it in, maybe. I don't think they've shipped yet, have they? I don't think they come out for a little while, so who knows? And it might be an option in the actual rule book, because I don't think the models are not going to get cards as far as I'm aware. VG saying, yeah, I'm a fan of the cards. Personally, I'm a big fan of the cards as well, mate. It was one of the things when I saw it at the weekend. It was like, yeah, there's no cards. It's probably that's like a negative for me. It's something I like about Warcry is those cards. Eric M, hello Eric, said, I like the books full of data sheets model for all factions. That way, even long after the game's out of print, I can just pull the book and have the rules. Yeah, I think there's pros and cons for both ways, mate. I think there is. Christian, share a link there to buy the merch. Thank you very much, Chris. Josh saying, my guess is cards via an app. I think potentially, mate. I think that it wouldn't surprise me if there was an app comes in the future, especially with Warhammer Plus and stuff. Another reason to get you to get in and subscribe to it. Personally, I think apps are fiddly when you're flicking between kind of 10 different models, trying to work through stats and stuff. I'm not a huge fan of them for Malifaux. I think they're great for list building and stuff. I'm not a huge fan of them for Infinity. I just personally, from a personal perspective, like to have the cards in front of me. But I can see from a very quick way to update things, apps work really good for that stuff. Vijay said, agreed. It's frustrating they don't do playthroughs online before release, and frankly, it's one of the main reasons I won't be pre-ordering it. Yeah, I'm the same, mate. I tend not to buy things kind of sight unseen anymore now. I like to at least have a bit of foresight. Like the days of diving into Kickstarters before seeing a playthrough of a game or something like that, like a long gone. Samuel Lawson, good. I just jumped off my screen there. Let me get back to it. Where was Sam's comment there? There he is. Samuel Lawson says, interested in how the new rules work and if they did actually a good game of this time, or is it the same GW usually does. Yeah, that's the whole point, mate. That's really the point of tonight's conversation. Really, is that people are getting a bit scared and a bit fearful of it without actually knowing the facts. We do know quite a lot from some of the stuff that people have been kind of sort of doing a bit of detective dick work and looking online, but we don't know the full context in which those rules relate to something else, for example. Where are we here? Josh says, as has been discussed before, it's the limited edition status of these starter sets, rules changes or combo boxes that run into the hype. I think, to be honest, mate, like I said before, I think the rules are obviously important. They've put time and effort into changing the rules. If they just wanted to sell more minis and more terrain, they could have kept the rules exactly as they were and basically done like, I mean, if they'd put that terrain plus those two factions into a new Kill Team starter box with the current rules, maybe updated to include like some like sort of new stuff in, maybe tweak a little bit and save a load of work. it still would have sold out. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, it would have sold out as GW stuff. Table Salt Games, hello, this is fashionably late as usual. Greg says, if it plays out like Glass Half Dead, I'll be excited to try it. I don't disagree. I think they've probably got a lot of the stuff correct. I think there's still some gaps in it. So if anybody's kind of like sort of really worried about the game, I still think we haven't seen enough to kind of see a full rounded picture of it yet. Thibault says, I'm very excited for the new game system, 40k's combat patrol for small games. I think Kill Team should be different. I agree. I think Kill Team should be almost like when I say like Warcry, I don't mean the same rules. It should be like Warcry is to AOS. It's something, it's set in the same universe, an opportunity to paint up small war bands of the models you like, an opportunity for Games Workshop to bring in some kind of quirky models that might not necessarily have justified a full army in the past. I completely agree. I don't think it has to be linked to 40k from a stat line point of view. 40k has its combat patrol and its smaller games. If you just want to play small games of 40k, it's nice to have something completely different. Perkysaurus says, I got my pre-order in my local gaming store. Ben saying, how do you think Necrons will be with reanimation protocols? I imagine the health point thing could make it weaker or stronger. It might be that they're just not even in there, mate. It might be completely taken out. So I don't know. I think this is the whole point about this game. We don't know enough yet, and from what we know so far is they've removed a lot of the links to 40k rules as they are. So it might be that we don't see any of those kind of like special rules coming through. Radek says the separate book with stats smells like an arrogant anti-consumer GW. There's no escaping comparisons with other companies. I wouldn't. It can't be anti-consumer, mate, because people keep buying it. If it was anti-consumer, nobody would buy it. It's like I say, it's twofold. One is it's a way to keep all of the points costs and the stats in one place, and then they update them annually, which helps the community to have one place to go for everything. It also helps GW because it's a cash cow every year that everybody buys to keep on top of the game. Luke says, I need to actually try Warcry before I have a clue if Kill Team is like it. Hello, mate. I honestly, I wouldn't even worry about Warcry at this point in time. It's like they've used some of the concepts of Warcry, but they're going to be completely different games. Like in the same way that they've used some of the concepts of Star Wars Legion with measuring templates, but it's not Star Wars Legion, if you like. Party Santa says, what excites me the most with this Kill Team is the precedent set by 2 new kits, getting unique models made for Kill Team with Spec Ops units. I completely agree, mate. I think that's one thing that they have kind of learned from Warcry is that we'll see some of those unusual teams, you know, a little bit like the models that they made for Blackstone Fortress, that type of stuff. We'll see some quirky little kind of like death squads and sort of like specialist kill teams and models that necessarily wouldn't have seen the light of day outside of this game. I think I would agree with you on that one, mate. Low Techno Pants says, I may be alone, but I love the bendy Warcry ruler. I've never used it, mate. It looked like a bit of a gimmick when I first saw it, but I have heard good things. Luke's saying, a little bit of a funny on might be the things my wife says to me on a Sunday. Why have you been saying that all week? I don't know if it's I'm pretty sure it's not a northern thing, but when something's a bit of a funny on, it's just like it's a bit of a mess on. It's a bit of a what's the word I would use? It's a bit of a chore. It's a bit of a pain in the arse. Where are we here? Andrew Cooks is called Fire Team. That's the one with the hexes, mate. I forgot the name of it. Born to Lose, Live to Win says, "Hey up, Andy. Long time no see. Hope all is good." It's very good, mate. Thank you very much. Jill says, Warcry should be next year, going by the 3-year model. I mean, it's had nothing released for it since Catacombs and all of those faction books released. But then, in fairness, we've had a year of not really playing any games and stuff. So who knows? Who knows? Tom says, my group are getting back into Dead Zone and we have a bunch of Relic Blade to paint up too, so Kill Team isn't going to be our must buy. I think that's the other side of it. I mean, if this is something that's not your cup of tea, there are so many good skirmish games out there now that there's plenty of choice. There's always something else. I personally think there are better rule sets out there than Kill Team, but I appreciate that people love the Games Workshop, the Warhammer 40k miniatures, and that's a big draw for people. But I'd sort of hands down say there are at least 2 or 3 other sci-fi skirmish games that I would rather play before I played Kill Team. Foible Games saying, can't wait for new Kill Team, hoping to have a bit of streamlining though. I reckon 23 for Warcry 2. Jill saying, I know it's sacrilege in this crowd, but I really dislike Warcry. The chat of moving closer to it is what makes me a little concerned. It's not sacrilege. Everybody loves and hates different games and not a thing. For me, Warcry was just about the simplicity of it. It wasn't difficult to get my head around. It's the kind of game where if I've not played it for a few months, I can go, do you want a game of Warcry? And all the rules just kind of come straight back to me. Some of the complexities in this whole thing about roll to hit, roll to wound, roll to save, injury rolls, all this kind of stuff in Kill Team was just like, it was like mental gymnastics that I had to keep remembering every time I played. Where are we up to? Silence is saying, so would it mean GW is afraid of blowback with the rules? It's kind of counterproductive not to show the rules. I don't think that's the case, mate. I think it's just that's their model. They never show the rules. They'll start to drip feed information leading up to the launch. So they'll talk about like sort of, so this is how the movement template works, and this is a stat card, and this is how this works, and this is how a kind of like an opposed like rule works. They'll drip feed that in through the Warhammer community posts over the coming weeks and potentially month. So I don't think it's kind of, they're not worried about blowback. I think it's just, that's just their business model. They seem to be more interested in showing off the new shiny models, and the rules almost take a backseat. So no wonder people think, oh, they don't care about the rules. Tony Bouvleiden, good evening, mate. He said, I've been listening along while building goblins. I like the sound of new Kill Team. Sounds more like a game I was hoping the original would be. Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. I think if it had been 12 months ago, I might have felt differently about Kill Team, but at the minute, I just don't think I need. I don't think I need it. I don't really want to get into buying more GW miniatures. I don't think I need it personally at this stage. But I will kind of get my hands on a rule book just to have a look through, and it might blow me away. It might. When I first heard about Warcry, I thought it wasn't really a game I was interested in until I got to read the rules, and then it was like, oh, actually, this sounds really cool. So I might feel differently about Kill Team when I can get my hands on the rules. But at the minute, I'm not on the hype train, if you like. VJ saying a downloadable free datasheet for Ghosts is always an option. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it creeps up at some point, mate. Where are we up to here? Lord Novus, good evening, mate. He says, I think Kill Team 2 has some interesting ideas, but felt it was a slog of a game to play, given the number of models on the field. When you say version 2, I'm assuming you mean the 2018 version. Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. Andrew says, Gaunt's Ghost is out. Our GW shop, they are going back to HQ soon, shelf. I had a feeling I read somewhere that they weren't shipping for weeks or months even. I thought maybe that was like a restock of them or something like that. But yeah, if that's the case, then the stats will, if they are available to use, the stats will be in the new book that comes out on launch day. Right, actually, and what I like about Warcry that might work for Kill Team is that it feels more self-contained and easier to follow. Kill Team, I guess Kill Team is still self-contained, but I think it's the need to try and link it to stats from full 40k, I think, which is kind of hampered it a little bit. Tom says, I sold the new Necromunda when they started bringing out a library full of books. I completely agree with the Necromunda thing, mate. Books scattered all over the place. Even when they went back and redid it, like recently, and redid all of the books that you need and changed the kind of, redid the books, you still need loads of books again. It's a right convoluted system. Lazy Pirate Painting, good evening to you, mate. Lee Burns, good evening to you as well. Says, I think this edition of Kill Team will be a great way of whipping up excitement for new range refreshers. Yeah, I think it's a great way to bring in kind of like sort of, I mean, if they're going to make a new sprue, for example, or a couple of new sprues, bring them in through Kill Team, bring up, like, they can drip feed them in here and there. Like they did a similar thing with, I forget what the faction was for AOS now, but it was where basically a lot of the war bands I forget what it was now. They basically used, was it the Chaos? Wasn't Chaos Cultists? I forget what it was now. But basically, all of the different Chaos war bands you could use. Oh, the name keeps coming to my head and then disappearing. But you could use it in another army if you like. So I think we'll start to see that way. It's a way to kind of to feed in some new models that probably wouldn't have got created otherwise. Table Salt Games, my question is, how long did GW have the new Kill Team rules in playtesting, and why release a starter set so soon to kill in the previous edition? I imagine they've had them in kind of in the bag for quite some time. I mean, it's exactly a year since they announced Indomitus, I think. So kind of they obviously have their business models and stuff. This is what I don't think they when I was talking about kind of like how people fear change, I think this is another one of those instances where they don't really give people a lot of heads up it's coming. You're lucky to get kind of like a month really before the pre-orders go live. VJ says, yeah, Dead Zone currently building is where I'm at right now, but I can see some chance for fun cross-pollination. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I say, like there's things like we're going back to the every game is miniature agnostic now. But there's nothing wrong with using like sort of GW minis to play a Dead Zone. There's nothing wrong with using GW minis to play, let's say, Star Saga, for example. If the minis are the pull and you've got people to play against, yeah, use them anywhere you want, kind of thing. But if you and your group play Kill Team, so much the better. Well, as long as you're playing games, does it really matter what you're playing as long as you're having fun? Mark says, I'm super hyped for the next Code 1 box set and jumping onto Infinity with both feet. Yeah, it looks great, mate, the new Infinity box set for Code 1. The original Code 1 box I've got, and it's a really fun game. I like the fact it's maximum of 10 models. It could have been streamlined a little bit more, if I'm perfectly honest, but it's not difficult. It's just you are bombarded with information, I think, and that's one of the off-putting things with Infinity Code 1. But yeah, the new box set has got I forget what it is now. Is it Nomads and I forget now, Ariadna. But yeah, it's got 2 new factions coming into the game as well. It looks great. It looks great. Nick Two Jokes yelling, hello mate, how you doing? Says, I just don't know what to make of it. If you want to try it, you can play it in store, but would you then be able to buy it considering the limited edition nature of it? What they have said, mate, is that the box set is going to be limited release. They'll make, let's say, 30,000 copies, and when they're sold, they're sold. But everything that is in that box will be available to purchase separately. It will cost you more. So if you buy the guard box, if you buy the orc box, if you buy the terrain, you buy a board, you buy the rule book, you buy the tokens, it will cost you more to buy them all separately, because that's how Games Workshop works. So if you really want this, when the pre-orders go live, get in there at 10 o'clock, get your pre-order in, whether it's with your friendly local gaming store, whether it's online at GW, wherever you get it. If you want to get it through Goblin Gaming, through my affiliate link, that's appreciated. Get on there and get it. However, you will be able to buy the rulebook and use the 40k minis that you already have, and use the terrain you've already got, and use the old Kill Team boards, or use the old Warcry boards or something like that. The only thing I think you're going to have to buy, which I don't know how they're going to do this, and it wouldn't surprise me if these get expensive, but those measuring templates, in the video, when they showed the sprues, those measuring templates, the new ones, came on a sprue which also had terrain on it. It had barricades on it as well. So unless you're going to have to buy them with those little barricades, or they're going to release them something different, something separately, you're going to have to buy them through them. But these days, with everybody having 3D printers and all that kind of stuff, and MDF cutouts and acrylic templates and all that kind of stuff, I can't imagine that it'll be too long before people start making third-party versions. TC Brain Drain saying, yeah, I'm not really into Warcry, though I'm not really a GW fan in general. Chris Warden said, before I jumped, where was it there? Let me get back to it. I want 2 boxes, whether I ever play the game or not. Plastic awesomeness. Madness, mate, madness. Tom saying, template movement is fine, except Kill Team is a very crowded board, and that might make handling the template a bit clumsy. I am interested in seeing some actual play. Yeah, me as well, mate. I think templates can get, like, for me, like, if your model is trying to move around the corner, like, if your model can move 4 inches, it's dead easy to go, right, 2 inches to the corner, I move it, and then I come around the corner and I move another 2 inches. It's going to be a little bit less accurate saying, well, I'm moving part of the template this far, and then I'm going to move part of the template round the corner, kind of thing. When it comes to really kind of sort of fine competitive decisions, if you like, I can see that causing a few stinks, if you like. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how it plays. But Born to Lose, Live to Win says, just wish they wouldn't limit everything. I guess that's their model, mate, isn't it? They make so many, they make a production run, they don't go back to it, and then obviously if people want to buy into it later, they have to buy the kind of like the sets that are more expensive. It's almost like get in early and it's discounted. I don't agree with it, but that's how they do stuff. Chris Warden says, if the Kill Team limited edition box is handled like the Beast Snagger box is being handled, you might not get a second chance to buy it from GW. You definitely won't get a second chance, mate. There will only be one chance. It'll be the same as the Warcry box when that's sold out. It'll be the same as the Indomitors box when that's sold out, although they did do some made to order stuff. It'll be the same as which should never be mentioned, which is Curse City. I couldn't even remember the name there. It's been so long since we're allowed to say the words out loud. That's just how they do it, isn't it? Andrew says that that was the thing about Necromunda I didn't like. Even the core book felt like it was all over the place. Yeah, I agree, mate. Andrew says, I think the GG shipping delay might have been for the US and Canada. GW seems to do quite well shipping to the other side of the world. GG. Ghosts, that's what it was to be, yeah. Marcus says, I want an Inquisition Kill Team. I can see that happening, mate. I honestly can. If you think about when Kill Team first came out, they released the Rogue Trader expansion. And I think people kind of got confused about what it was, and I don't think it sold very well. For all the Kill Team starter box completely sold out straight away, the Rogue Trader expansion was around forever. And it had some really nice miniatures inside it. But then people just saw that really flat kind of like, well, there's no terrain on it. It's just it's inside a spaceship. That's not what I thought Kill Team was. And I think it came so quickly after the original launch box that people kind of just went, oh no, I don't want that kind of thing. But there was some really nice minis in that, and I think we'll start to see that kind of that Blackstone Fortress feel, that Rogue Trader type feel coming through. It wouldn't even surprise me if we start to even potentially see some crossover with Necromunda miniatures, whether there's a possibility to bring some of those across a little bit. I'm not certain that we will, but it wouldn't surprise me if they start bringing up some unusual sculpts that could be used in either game. Slaves to Darkness, that's the one I was trying to think of. Thank you, Andrew Fairbanks. VG said, I played the original Necromunda, and the rules were clunky. Back then, personally, I always found the gang's lore boring compared to mainline 40k. I quite like the Necromunda lore, I'll be perfectly honest, but the game's a bit too kind of granular for me personally. Lord Technopan says, will there be stats for my Gellerpox? I'm pretty sure there is, mate. There is a Kill Team website which is live now, and it shows a lot of the different factions. I think that's going to be available, and I'm pretty sure the Gellerpox are in there. VG said, I hope Kill Team will be mainline 40k fluff with better than Necromunda rules. Last edition was probably on par with Necromunda. Hopefully the new version will be better. Tyler Peck says, any word on price yet? There's no word on price yet, mate. My honest guess is where the way everything's been recently, it's all been around that £125 box set. Seems to be the standard price. Would I expect it to be any more? I don't think it will. I mean, there's a lot of plastic in the box, but then there was a lot of plastic in the in the Curse City box. There was a lot of plastic in in the AOS Dominion box. It seems like everything's around that £125 mark. I forget what that is in dollars. Is it like $200 or something like that? I forget what it is now. But everything seems to be around that same price point. But yeah, that's a pure guess. Got no idea, to be fair. VG says, that's the problem with a lot of core boxes. They always put the most boring factions. I think in this case, there's a lot of people that actually are quite excited by these ones for a change. Nomads, Ariadna, that's what it was. Yeah, definitely, mate. Jason says, Andy getting hungry. Getting hungry. Was my stomach rumbling? I didn't hear it, mate. I don't think it was me. Oh, it might have been. My table's got a bit of a creak on it if I lean in the wrong place. It might have just been that. That's maybe what it was. Des Forces, I wonder if they're still going to keep verticality in the new Kill Team with the weird template measuring. Hello, mate, by the way. Thanks for joining the stream. I think the plan, there's definitely verticality. I mean, there's in the orc terrain that we saw, there was different levels to it. So I think there's definitely plans to keep it in there. I think they'll hugely simplify terrain in a similar way to that they did in Warcry, where essentially all of the terrain is deemed to be 3 inches up, and that is how they kind of like, that was how they do it within Warcry. So I think they'll do something very similar in this as well. it wouldn't surprise me if all of the kind of like the level 1 terrain, if you like, is all exactly the same height across the board. Bodyguard of License, I think the template equates to inches anyway, so I reckon many of them will stay in the box. I think it will equate to inches. I'm sure it's like 1, 2, and 3 inches, but it seems weird that they've intentionally not put inches in the stats. They've put this like square, triangle, circle, hexagon thing in. That's what I mean about like, what's the point of it? Like, I don't know enough really to see whether it's a good or a bad shout at the minute, but it does feel like it's something like it's a change for change's sake. Like having a tape measure in there would have worked just like, not a tape measure in there, but having inches in there, for example, would have worked just the same. Marco says, they don't include the Rogue Trader and Galapox rules. That would be a move. Yeah, VG, you could be right. It might be Highlander, mate. Christian's off the bed. Thanks, mate. Thank you for your support tonight. Tyler Peck says there's a store in Gainesville, Florida that has like 6 copies of Curse City. They're asking 300. That'll be why. That'll be why they've got 6 copies, mate. Radix says, I still love 40k law, so I'm keeping most of my minis, but I might try them out in Star Breach instead. And Tyler saying 2 boxes of Warcry Catacombs. I don't think Warcry Catacombs sold as well, but it did come out during like the main part of the pandemic and stuff like that, so that might be why. I've still not managed to have a play of mine yet. Mine's all painted up and ready to go, but with all of the lockdown stuff, it's never even got to the table yet. Hope Lives says, interested to see if new Dead Zone is coming out. Not on the hype for Kill Team. Totally understand those who are. Sadly, the minis don't do it for me this time around. I understand that, mate. And if I was a betting man, which I have been on the football recently, I would say that there's a new version of Dead Zone coming out. Whether it's more of a tweaked version, whether it's a 2.5 type thing or whatever, or whether it's a complete rebuild, I would say with some certainty, I think there's a new Dead Zone coming out. Evil Spidey Tube, hello. So I just had a look at the GW stream and the data sheets are in the Octarius book. Thank you for confirming that, mate. I must have missed the bit where he switched between books. It looked like he was just looking through the core book. Makes perfect sense why they would do that, and that would be the right way to do it. But thank you for clarifying it. Andrew says, we seem to have reached critical mass with number of Andrews in the stream. The more the better, mate, I say. The more the better. Josh saying, never understood the lack of crossover from Necromunda models to other games. I get the fluff isn't there unless you set the Kill Team games in a hive. I mean, at the end of the day, I know people in the Necromunda world live like in the hive world underneath the ground type thing. However, I imagine at some point they must come up. They must come above land kind of thing. I'm sure you would get like some kind of like specialist like ops teams coming out there trying to kind of steal weapons and things like that. So it would be nice to see a little bit of crossover in that. Camo, hello from Oz. Hello, Camo. Good morning to you. Tyler says, first time I've seen any of your vids. Glad it popped up. Enjoying the show, man. Just subscribed. Thank you, Tyler. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. And anybody else who's new here, we've got a few in tonight talking about Kill Team. If anybody is new here and you want to drop a subscribe, please do. Much appreciated. And if you want to like the video as well, that always helps to push it out to a few new people. Craig Mahew's in there. Love Necromunda in Kill Team. It's nice to have miniature skirmish games. I think I'm a skirmish gamer at heart, if I'm being perfectly honest. Mike saying, can I change my name to Andrew? Andrew Pierce, he certainly can, mate. Tom says, in the GW video they mentioned there were advantages to being on higher levels. If I remember right, you get something similar in Kill Team, that it negates cover. I think the same in Warcry. I think it negates cover or something like that. So yeah, there are advantages to being up high, I would imagine. Mike says video game tie-in for the symbols and the giveaway money. Yeah, the symbols are a funny one, aren't they? It's like they did a similar thing in Warcry as well, where everything's got symbols rather than like actual stats. So rather than saying like strength or whatever, there's like a little kind of symbol for it, which I completely understand when they're printing cards and the cards become universal across the world in different languages. However, if they're not printing cards, it's a bit of a weird one. I don't know why they wouldn't have just said call it 1, 2, and 3 if it's 1, 2, and 3 inches, for example. Where was that one? VG saying the shapes are probably more for easy Internalization. Yeah, but then so is the number 1, the number 2, the number 3. Do you know what I mean? That's the bit I don't really understand. Lee Burns says, just look at the Kill Team website. No mention of Gellerpox of Blackstone Fortress stuff in the faction list. I think somebody mentioned on one of the forums, one of the Facebook groups, that they'd seen it somewhere. Maybe not, mate. Maybe not. Marco says, good night, everyone. I stayed up late last night to celebrate. I'm glad you enjoyed the celebrations, mate. Take care, buddy. And Mike's saying, I doubt they will package Blackstone Fortress minis again for Kill Team. I tell you what, mate, if they're on a sprue, why not bring them out in a box? Maybe it's a great way to kind of like use old what they called, old dyes, old injection molding dyes. Bodyguard Elias, hello, says, if I had to guess, I would say the template triangle circle effort is an easy reference for entry-level players used to an Xbox controller aimed at the PlayStation generation. I think that's, hello mate, by the way, I think that's probably a bit of a, that's overcomplicating it, I think, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like, surely just calling it like a move 1, a move 2, and a move 3, if it was 1, 2, and 3 inches, or calling it short, medium, and long range. Like, surely that's kind of what we see in games like Marvel Crisis Protocol, for example, uses short, medium, and long range. So it's a bit of a weird one to start using symbols. Where are we up to here? Yeah, Craig's saying there, Necromunda Wastelands. Yeah, like a little bit how Warcry's kind of set out in the all points, kind of out in the kind of in the wastelands and stuff, and it's like little kind of sort of gangs that are hanging around and stuff. I'd love to see Kill Team have some of that. I think unfortunately they're so ingrained in selling the main 40k models, it might take a little while to kind of to see that happen. Camo says, did you see the Glass Half Dead video on zoomed in shots of the boot? I did, yeah, I did see that. And obviously a lot of the information that he and others put together to make that video is all relevant. But as I said before earlier in the stream as well, I think there's still a lot missing that might potentially change how some of the rules we now know about, how they actually work in the game itself. VS says, bought the Tau Space Wolves box less than a month ago. Should I keep it or exchange it for the new one? The Tau Space Wolves box. Oh, that was the Kill Team box, wasn't it? I'm not sure you'll be able to exchange it, mate, if I'm perfectly honest. But at the end of the day, it depends if you really want the core box for this new one. You could get away with just keeping what you've got, using the terrain, using the miniatures, and just buying the new rulebook. So I guess it's up to you, really. But if you can exchange it, then fair enough. But I'm not sure my local store would exchange it now. Vijay says, understanding why GW does things, down that way leads madness. Rob Fannelton, hello to you, mate. He says, the ruler wedge symbols, I'm guessing is so people don't have to convert measurements. It's not... I don't know what you mean by converting it, mate, to be fair. Like, they still could have called it 1, 2, and 3. Why use squares and triangles and, like... There's nothing to convert, really, if you've got a widget. It doesn't even matter what... It doesn't matter what they kind of mark them as. It just seems weird. Tom says maybe movement could be this guy's movement is 3 circles. Yeah, I think it is, mate. I think it is. It says no running around corners. For a game that uses that much terrain, mate, I can't see that you're not allowed to run around corners. If you can only move in straight lines, I think that's going to be a huge negative to the game personally. But it's going to be damn interesting if that's the case. And I think there will be some things which say it's 3 circles movement. I think I've even seen something in one of the stats which was like a blast thing, and basically the blast affected like two circles of distance or something like that. Like that to me, once you start getting multiples of a measurement ruler thing, I think that's when it starts to get a bit clunky and stuff. Again, I don't know for certain, never seen it played, don't know the full rules, but it sounds a bit weird, that's all. Tom says maybe movement could be this guy's movement 3. Yeah, that's what we've just been talking about there. Mike's saying the range gauge and no max range is an interesting choice. I think it's just a case of that it's played on a really small, like, sort of surface. So if, like, one thing you don't have in Warcry is a lot of long-ranged kind of shooting. It's things like throwing spears and sort of whips and things like that, maybe shooting a yard arrow. But obviously in sci-fi games, you're going to have like laser guns and pistols and stuff. Regardless of how good those guns are, they'd all be able to reach the other side of the board kind of thing. So that's maybe not the daftest thing to get rid of. Evil Spidey Tube says, have you seen the 40k Battle Sector game on Steam? Looks like a video game version of full 40k. I've not seen it, mate. I don't really play a lot of video games these days. Lee says, good street night, Andy. New Kill Team release is a good case study of what you've been talking about for sure. Yeah, like I say, I think it's, if I can kind of sort of just to go back and summarise a little bit, for those that missed the main part of the stream, if you did miss the main topic bit earlier on, I'll be releasing it as like a clips video later this week, probably tomorrow, so you'll be able to catch up on the main topic. But essentially, like what I would say to anybody that's a bit worried about the changes and stuff, just err on the side of caution. We don't know all the facts yet. All we know is we know some things, but we don't know how they all fit together in the full rules of the game. So just kind of look at the positive stuff, hope for the best, and then when the rules come out and we get to see them, then make your full opinion. But don't, like, the sky's not falling based upon like kind of like the little bits of snippets that we've managed to dig out so far. Jill says it sounds like Andy's fear of change is symbol based. I think there's a time and a place for symbols. But not when they're just there for no apparent reason. Like, I've played the Batman Gotham City Chronicles game, and that game is full of symbols. There are symbols all over the place in that game, and it takes a while to remember what they all are. So for example, you're gonna have mentally, the way things work when you're playing a game is you're gonna have to remember. Let's say it's square, circle, and triangle. You're gonna have to keep remembering. Right, the circle one is the middle size, the square one's the small one. So like your brain has to kind of have that extra sort of step of a square equals something else. Where if it was 1, 2, and 3, or it was short, medium, and long, your brain already kind of knows that stuff, so it shortcuts it. So for me, it's potentially bad game design to do it that way, unless there is a specific reason why it needs to be there. So if there's a specific reason, then all power to it. But yeah, it's not a kind of a fear of symbols. It's more about why bother? Like what advantage does it bring? And that's the bit I don't know about. Entirely saying, I think the shapes are used on the data card, so they won't be words. It'll be symbols and numbers like on Warcraft. Yeah, that's the bit I mean, mate. Why can't it be a 1, 2, and a 3? Like that's what I mean. Mike says, honestly, symbols can tie into a range as well. We're not doing what they're doing at this point. Yeah, okay. Lee says, the problem with these gauges is needing multiples. Both players will need a set, otherwise you'll be passing them back and forwards the whole time. You do get 2 of the movement gauges in the box, but I think you only get 1 of the range gauge. And like I said before, when they showed the sprues off on the stream the other day, they come on a sprue with the barricades. So I'm assuming they must be going to release a different version, unless you have to buy these gauges with the barricades as well. Mike saying, okay, I'm going to say it. They want video gamers to be able to measure distances. Honestly, I can't see any reason why anybody that just plays video games. One, this is not going to be the game that suddenly gets them into playing games. If they're not playing games now, Kill Team isn't suddenly going to change their minds. And 2, if they can't tell the difference between short, medium, and long, or they can't tell the difference between a 1, 2, and a 3, they're screwed with symbols as well. Roger29 says, anyone seen the playing board mat? Do they have symbols on them to force you to buy mats and boards? There's no symbols on the mats, mate. They're just a terrain board, basically. They're just like a sort of it looks like terrain, basically. It looks like a desert base or something like that, or a rocky base. There's nothing on the board itself. Jill says, tabletop gamers love to shit on video gamers. I know, like it's weird, isn't it? It is a weird one, as if to say like video gamers can only like stare at a screen and press buttons kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of brain power to make lots of calculations very quickly, and I think video gamers are a lot cleverer than you give them give them credit for. Blizzard's saying because 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much on all die. Yeah, they're on dice, but like, I'm sure I'm missing something to get this point across. I understand they're on dice, but you're not confusing rolling a dice with looking at a side on a thing. And like I said before, like every other game uses short, medium, and long, or SM and L for the ranges. So and like even Marvel Crisis Protocol, it uses S, M, and L on the movement gauges, and it uses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the range rulers, if you like, for effects and throwing things and stuff like that. like I say, there might be a reason why it's kind of part of the game, but it's, for me, if it's just there to make it different, then that's bad design. Armagnog says triangle measurement is kind of more understandable worldwide than 2 inches. I think to anybody that's ever played a miniatures game, 2 inches is much more understandable than a triangle. I completely disagree. This is not a game that is designed for, like, primarily for people that have never played a miniatures game before. This is designed for people that love 40k or have always fancied playing 40k, want to do it with smaller ones, didn't like the old kill team and want to try the new one. I can't see how sort of like switching to symbols is suddenly kind of unlocked this potential of all these people who like have never wanted to play before. Mike's in new theory and rumour, they're going with grids. Yeah, there's definitely no grids, mate. And Jill saying clearly all video gamers are morons. Well-known fact. Exactly, Jill. Every video gamer is just living in their parents' basement, kind of staring at a screen, pasty white skin. Oh no, that's all of us hobbyists and painters. I forgot about that one. Lord Technopants, I like Warcry, 2 triangles and Necromunda 3 squares. Yeah, you're just confusing me now. How we doing for chatting? We're doing for folks. Folks, we got over 110 people in a minute, and we've got 75 likes. Please do drop a like on the video if you enjoyed this tonight. And yeah, and as I said before, if you're not a subscriber, if you're new here, if you've come for a little bit of Kill Team chat tonight, I've kind of spent more time on Kill Team than I planned to. It's a good job I've kind of done a bit of research and I know more about it. But yeah, if you're new here, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Jill said it's like you're looking in my window. Not that my basement has windows, but it does have cameras. Peter said I fear these new dice with symbols replacing numbers. There's no new dice. There's just numbers on the dice. Tyler Peck says we need more likes. More likes are always nice. We've got 113 people and 80 likes. That means some of you haven't clicked like on the video. How very dare you? Roger says they're trying to educate. You have to find the hypotenuse for triangle, circumference of a circle, and perimeter for square. See, now they're overestimating how clever people are. Radslug says they're going to use fingers to measure distance in Kill Team. Maybe that's the thing. Can you imagine if the movement was like, so it's so long range is a big toe, short range is a little toe, and you can your gun can shoot an index finger in length. Jonathan Wells, hello Jonathan. He says, the thing with shapes is weird, but I'm loving everything else. I don't think the hit wound save rule translated well to a skirmish game. I agree that there was a lot of times where there was a lot of rules for nothing to happen. One thing I would say from Kill Team is because things do more damage, they've given models more wounds so they can take more damage. It essentially, the model lasts the same amount of time, if you like. So instead of taking 1 or 2 wounds, it takes 1 or 2 sort of big crit rolls, if you like, instead. But there's just something more thematic and more interesting. Like if you've got like something with a las gun and it's doing like sort of 5 or 6 damage, it feels like it's a bloody laser gun. Like it should do 5 or 6 damage. Like if you've got something like a rocket launcher, it should be doing like 10 damage. But then to counteract that, your models can obviously take more damage. It just feels more fun, I think. Rob says the main reason for these gauges are in games is for precise measurement, less grey area. I get that for games where, like, so I've mentioned Star Wars Legion and I've mentioned Marvel Crisis Protocol because of the types of gauges they've got. But those are kind of bendy gauges. They're intentionally pivoted so you can get around stuff. These feel like a really weird way because they're not big enough, if you like, to kind of do any. I mean, I haven't seen the stats to know how far things move. Maybe things don't move very far. Maybe it's like, maybe that's the thing. Maybe you can only move in a straight line. I don't know. Like, and this is my point. We don't know enough about it. We know that those ranges relate to like the sides of that gauge relate to symbols, but we don't really know much else. Yeah, Mike's saying about your health pool. Yeah. Blitz saying, oh, I thought the weird symbols would be on the dice. In that case, yeah, it makes no sense. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. They're not on the dice. They are on the sides of the measurement gauge. So if you think of it as kind of like a, is it called a trapezium? I think it's called a trapezium, isn't it? So basically, along the bottom, you've got like a square. Up one side, you've got like a triangle. Up the other side, you've got a circle, and there's nothing along the top, if you like. And those are the different movement distances. It's nothing to do with the dice map. Infinite DM says it's more granular. It gives things more depth. It definitely doesn't give it more depth, mate. It makes absolutely no difference. Just by putting a symbol on instead of saying 2 inches does not create more depth or granularity at all. Tom saying there, they said when a model has taken half its wounds, its stats are reduced. I didn't see that bit. For me, that's something else. It's another thing to track. It's another thing to kind of keep on top of it. It's another thing that makes it a bit more complex. It might be great in game, but for me, it's like I don't know. I don't know until we play it. And Rob said, I meant with front of base to end of base, you can't overshoot movement or ranges. Yeah, I agree, mate. You can't overshoot it, except it means you can only move in a straight line. So like I said before, if you were moving 4 inches and you move 2 inches to the corner of a building and then 2 inches round the side, how do you do that using a fixed measurement? Because you don't get like a half a square measurement, for example, do you? Or a half triangle measurement to get to the corner and then move around. That's the bit that I mean is going to be a bit fiddly, but we don't know how it plays yet. We don't know enough. See, like Infinite DM saying Guardsmen move 3 square, I think, which are 2 inches, so 6 inches each. So that in itself feels fiddly. So you're gonna have to go right, move 1, move 2, move like it just feels like it's complicated. But I'm not worried about it. It doesn't bother me. I just don't know enough. It sounds weird when I talk about it out loud. Tom Ryan saying Dead Zone embraces vague ranges and it works really well. Yeah, I agree, mate. I think the fact that the way Dead Zone works with the cubes and moving it moving into a cube is like, so you move 1 forward, but where you place it within that cube kind of gets you your cover and stuff like that. I think it's a really interesting mechanic. Feature says when it's not knowing much stop GW fans from forming opinions. I think it's the same for any game. It's not a GW thing, but yeah, there's just more of them, that's all. Table Salt Games. I think the template is a way to protect their IP from third parties. GW could easily stop people producing it the way you have to buy it. There's no way they can stop people putting a square or a triangle on something, mate. Absolutely no way. There is no lawyer in the world is going to give you an IP rights over a triangle. Rob saying, I don't know, brother, that's why I play Infinity. Andrew says, if there are brackets on each model, their card might be able to be flipped for the new stats. There's no cards, mate. There's no cards in the game. So there's nothing to kind of flip over or stuff like that. Jill saying the range chat has killed me. I'm not far behind you, Jill, to be fair. Tyler Peck says, what's the site you mentioned to pre-order through you? It is Goblin Gaming, mate. But there's a if you look in the comments, not the comments, sorry. If you look in the description of this video, there'll be a link to Goblin Gaming, an affiliate link. If you click through that, it tracks that you've gone through my affiliate link. You pay exactly the same price you always did. You always would from them, and I make a small commission that kind of helps keep the channel going. For those that are new here tonight, this is my full-time job. This is what I do. This channel is what I do for a living, and one of the ways that helps kind of to pay for that is folks shopping through my affiliate link. Like I say, it doesn't cost you anything more, but it just kind of it gives me a little kickback and gives me a bit of help. VG says, I was originally put off the vagueness of the Dead Zone cubes, but after watching a lot of bat reps, I have to say I really love it. It's one of those things where when it's explained to you, it sounds random, but when you actually see it in the process, it's like, well, why don't more people do it like this? It seems really obvious. Mike says the symbols do essentially turn any mat into a grid-based movement. I can tell you that the kids in our club refer to grid movement. I do think this is a way to get away from something like he moves. I'm not really sure, mate. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Maybe it's a young thing. Yeah, Jonathan's saying the gauge may be an internal designer decision to make sure all movements are somewhat consistent. Feels like they could have done the same with inches though. It's a really weird choice, mate. But like I say, we don't know enough. What was that? Mike Pace, you absolute legend. Thank you very much. He said, I know how much YouTube channel makes, so I'll buy dinner. Thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, thankfully I'm not relying upon just on ad revenue. Otherwise, I'd be starving to death. But yeah, it makes a massive difference to me. Any donations. I've got a Patreon as well. I've got a fantastic community of Patreons who support me every month as well. So all the different bits and pieces, selling T-shirts and merchandise and all these things, all kind of come together and things. So yeah, I really do appreciate it. Thank you, mate. Very, very kind. Tyler Peck says, then that's where I'm pre-ordering. Thank you very much, Tyler. That's massively appreciated. Vijay says, if the range chat was in chocolate bars, you'd still be interested. Peter says, so we have to throw a symbol inscribed dice for shooting now. You do, mate, but you always have. They just happen to be inscribed with a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. Dave F says, what 9th edition codex do you think? What 9th codex do you think will be after Thousand Suns and Grey Knights? Oh, what do I think's coming? We obviously know orcs are on the way, don't we? We know they're coming. I don't know if they're coming before or after. You know what it is? It wouldn't surprise me with all of this stuff. I forget what it's called now, but what the region where all this new kill team's taking place. What was the name of it again? I forget now. But it's where the Tyranids stuff kind of happened, didn't it? It wouldn't surprise me if there's a bit of a build into that storyline, and we maybe see some Tyranid stuff coming. They're kind of like long overdue. It also wouldn't surprise me if we saw on the back of the new Death Krieg models coming, whether we see a little bit more guard stuff coming as well. So who knows. VJ says, join the Patreon, gets you the Discord as well, which is worth it. It does, VJ. Thank you very much. Yes, I do have a private Discord server, which if you join the Patreon, you get access. I think Patreon starts at $2 a month and gets you access into the Discord server as well, where we basically, it's a bit like the chat tonight, but 24 hours a day. James says, I'm pretty sure Andy's widget isn't working and still showing as the latest super chatter. I don't know why it does that, mate. I think sometimes it just takes a little while to update. It's really random. It's not controlled by me. It's controlled by what's it called? Streamlabs. Octarius, that's the one, Tom. Thank you very much. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if with the Octarius stuff, if we see some NID stuff coming. Robert says, your merch, what's going on with new stuff? Last we talked, you should be making content was on the table. I honestly haven't had time to make any new merch, mate. That's the exact problem. VG says, I have a feeling that Ash, Guerrilla Miniature Games, will have the only back rep for Kill Team 2 comes out before pre-order. I completely agree, mate. Because I think I suppose he won't be able to do it unless he gets sent all of the other book as well, the other book with the stats in. But yeah, Ash is an absolute legend when it comes to getting stuff out quick. And I tend to watch his stuff for that reason. I mean, he's a bit of a fast talker, even faster than me. And if you don't understand the game, sometimes you have to kind of rewind it and watch a bit more. But everybody else is going to do an unboxing showing exactly what GW showed us at the weekend. And that for me is not content I necessarily need to watch. So I hope that some channels who don't normally get to get some of this stuff get their hands on this Kill Team box to be able to show something a little bit different. Otherwise, there are so many channels who basically just open the box and show you the content, and that's a real shame. It doesn't build up hype. It doesn't really kind of do anything. They're always kind of a bit rushed. I wish more channels did what Ash did. Where are we up? NRG Spike says, honestly, I think GW should make dedicated Kill Team kits like they do with Underworlds. I doubt they'll commit to tooling that many molds, but it could keep the game alive for several years. Thank you. Welcome to the chat, by the way. Nice to see you here. I honestly think they will. I think we'll see similar to what they've done with Kill Team, with Warcry rather, where Warcry have got those kind of specific chaos kind of war bands. I think we'll start to see that coming across into Kill Team. I think it'll push people into buying those box sets. We'll see the rules for them kind of merging into 40k as well, and before you know it, like you've got like a small kind of little faction that you can then go in and play a 500 point combat patrol game. I can honestly see them doing that. I think they've seen enough success from the Warcry warbands doing a good job. That's exactly what will happen. Jesse Hamill, good evening, Jesse. Says, do we know how much the new Kill Team box will be? Yeah, somebody just saying there, I'm guessing £125 based upon everything else that's been out. It seems to be the new standard price now. I can't see it being that much more than that, unless we've got a price rise coming, which is quite plausible. Rob said, I'm going to make some Kill Team content. It's going to be called Code 1 Crimson Stone. Nice, mate. Where are we up to? Yeah. Tom McCall says, who is Ash? There is a channel called Guerrilla Miniature Games. Ash Barker is the guy that does that, and he essentially just he's an absolute legend when it comes to painting stuff. He gets like a box set one day, he's got it completely built and painted the next day, and he's filming a battle report the day after, kind of thing. So what tends to happen with these new box sets, every other channel that gets the GW stuff early basically does an unboxing, and he does a full kind of gameplay and a review type thing, which is amazing, really. Tyler Peck says, are you a wrestling fan? I've never really been into wrestling, mate, to be honest. I was poor as a child, didn't have much money. My parents didn't have Sky TV, so I never got to see the wrestling. It wasn't really something I watched. So no, it's not something that's ever really kind of gripped me, mate. Although my young son now seems to be getting, I think he's kind of like, he's got a friend at school who's got he's got a friend at nursery, sorry, who's got an older brother who's like into the wrestling. So my youngest son, he's only 4, he's not quite 5 yet. He's started asking about wrestling and stuff like that now. James says, if GW don't make squad, then they've missed the trick. I tell you what, mate, I think the internet might burst if they do. Mike says, if there are also some strong arguments that Kill Team is pre-alpha for the next edition of Big Hammer, and this does eliminate some of the unneeded dice rolling too. I think people said that about Apocalypse as well. I'd be really surprised if they streamline 40k this much. I think people will kind of burn them to the ground, if I'm honest. But it'll be interesting to see how the community takes this Kill Team anyway. Dave says, tonight I've been reading 5 parsecs from home rulebook, completely stumped on creating rivals, plus I've got work early tomorrow. Take care, buddy, thank you. Lord Tenterpan says, I only wrestle my inner dialogue. Thomas says, are you a Rams fan, and why is your helmet black and white, not blue and yellow? I am a Rams fan, mate, but it's actually a blue and white helmet. It's just the light in here, so it's the older helmet. So yeah, it's a dark blue and white one. I haven't bought the new one yet. I haven't bought the new helmet because, to be honest, I'm not overly fussed on the new Rams logo, if I'm perfectly honest. But at some point, I will buy the new season's helmet. But yeah, that one's from like not the season just gone. When we got the new logo in, it was there the season before. So yes, I am a massive Rams fan. It says it does look black. It's a really dark blue. So I don't know if you'll be, if I get that cover to the camera there, you can kind of see there. It's definitely blue compared to my black T-shirt there behind. It's definitely blue. So yes, yeah, massive Rams fan. Tyler Peck says that's actually one of the helmets they wear now. It's maybe like a, like a, what they call like a colour. I forgot what they're called now. Like a second or third colour type thing. But yeah, their main colour is the one with the yellow ram's horn, isn't it? That used to be that kind of like their main helmet before they changed their colour scheme. When they got their new stadium, their nice new stadium. Throwback, that's the one I was trying to think of, the throwback colours. Yes, I'm looking forward to the new season starting. I feel like this is our last chance before we start to see people like Aaron Donald disappearing and stuff. I think this might be our last chance for a Super Bowl push for a few years. So yeah, Tom saying, "Come on, chat, make him read more." Yeah, if you stop chatting, I run out of things to talk about. 108 viewers, we've got 89 likes. I'm sure we can push that over 89. I'm sure there must be one person out there who's not clicked the like button yet. Yeah, Tyler saying all these teams wear so many different uniforms now. Yeah, you get like the salute to service ones, which are like the kind of like the camouflage type looking things. You get like they normally have like at least 3 different kits. They have a throwback kit. It's all good marketing, isn't it? Tyler says, "What project are you working on, mate?" So at the minute, I'm looking over on my hobby desk over there. I've got some Empire of Dust ships for Kings of War Armada. I've also got some Malifaux stuff on the painting table. I've got some Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff I'm painting at the minute. I've also got some Infinity models that were sent to me by Corvus Belly that I've been building up and priming. They're ready for painting as well. What else have I got on the go at the minute? I think that's about it at the minute. I think that's enough to be getting on with. I'm in the middle of a number of different projects. I haven't for the last couple of weeks for a few different reasons, but I normally do like a Wednesday night hobby hangout where I do some painting on the stream. So I tend to kind of like paint a little bit and try and work on something different each week just to keep it fresh. And so what that does is it causes me to be like halfway through a number of projects. Deep Red says, I was like number 81. Oh, 95. Oh, we've got to try and break through 100 now. There must be 5 people haven't liked it yet. Bostria, good evening, Bostria. How are you doing? I got the, I can't read the box from here now. It is the Pano, what they called again. In fact, let me grab the box. Let me grab the box. It's the military orders pack. That's the one I'm busy doing at the moment. So I can focus on that. Which are absolutely beautiful. So I've got the Code 1, the models from the Code 1 pack as well. So this is kind of like a nice little additional stuff which will boost it up into my info list and stuff. But yeah, I must admit I'm excited about the new Code 1 stuff coming as well. It looks awesome, and I've been enjoying your videos to it as well. Thank you very much, Bostria. Where else were we up to there? VG says we can always circle back to shape talk. James Braces, join us on Discord, guys. Well worth the price of the Patreon. Yeah, like I said before, this is my full-time job now. Part of the way I do that is through community kind of support. I don't do any sponsored videos. I don't do any paid-for videos, like kind of doing kind of like paid promotion stuff. Everything I do is kind of my own opinion, my own personal opinion, if you like. And so what happens is folks kind of support me through Discord to be able to kind of keep independent, if you like. So yeah, if it's patreon.com/BlackJack Legacy, and yeah, from $2 a month you can join our Discord group. There's other levels as well where you can get like sort of other bits and pieces of merchandise included. So yeah, please do check it out. Where are we up to? Tyler Peck says, aren't we all? Silencer says, I actually want to see how you paint Infinity models. I usually have lots of problems with them in terms of how to approach them. To be honest, I find them an absolute pleasure to paint because there is so much detail on them. Like, I think with them being metal, you can almost get like a little bit more depth into the sculpt than you tend to get with like resin and stuff. So it tends to be quite easy to like pick out the areas that you want to paint. If you check out my channel, if you check out my Code 1 review, I painted the entire Code 1 box before I did the review, and you'll be able to see some of the stuff I've painted on there. I've done a few hobby hangouts as well where I painted the Yu-Ching, and I also painted the Pano stuff from the Code 1 box. So you can see some of the stuff I've done on there. I've done a little bit of Ariadne stuff. I've done a little bit of Nomads in the past. Yu-Ching is a faction that I like some of the kind of that sort of the Akira aesthetic of the bikes and stuff like that. Infinity, I've mentioned many times. I absolutely love the aesthetic and the lore and the background of that game. Always was this one. Rob Farrelson saying, you like Warcry. If new kill team ends up playing along that line, would you be more inclined to pick up at least the rulebook? I think I might pick up the rulebook at some point, mate, just to have a look at it and understand more about it. Part of the fact that, you know, when I'm talking about it on streams and stuff like that, it's good to kind of have a knowledge about the game. But I'll be completely honest, it's not exciting me to kind of dive in. I honestly think there are a number of other sci-fi skirmish games that I would rather play before I dive into Kill Team, I think, again. Kaylee says, what Marvel stuff? I'm working through Spider Fours at the moment. Just sorted some of the mirror paint. So I've just about finished the starter box stuff. I think I've got Captain America half finished, and then that's the starter box stuff finished. I've painted Hulk. I have also painted, or I've got to paint, I should say, Deadpool, and Bob that comes with it. But yeah, I'm quite happy. In fact, I'm going to grab one of my Marvel miniatures and I'll show you. So some of you will have seen this on live streams and stuff, but this is my Hulk model. I'm trying to get to see it. Obviously, I'm miles away from the screen, but kind of gives you an idea. Not my face, Hulk's face. There we go. We'll get some pictures of it and I'll put them up on the stream. But yeah, I'm just enjoying painting them. It's quite nice. I don't have to think about the colour choices because they're comic book characters. They've kind of, somebody else has done the work to come up with the colour choices. They're just quite nice to paint. And there we go. If we can scroll back down there. Somebody said only 99 likes. Madness. You're right, mate. It is madness. Where are we up to here? Scroll down. James said, you got a sweat on, mate. Did someone mention vinegar? Thanks, mate. It's the light in here. I mean, I've been in here for a while. It's warm outside as well at the minute, obviously summer. And yeah, when all the cameras are on and the computer's running away and the lights are on, I've been in here, what, like 3 hours or something now? Something like that. Yeah, it gets a bit warmer here, mate. Bliss has been talking about bacon yet. We've not talked about bacon just yet. Where are we up to? Rob Farnelson says, whoever was asking about painting Infinity figures, check out WGC Infinity on Facebook. Best place for pictures and discussion of other people's painted miniatures. Tom says 101 now. I've looked at. Thank you very much, folks, for the likes. And Neil Pilot says, nice hug. Yeah, I'll need to get a better picture of it, mate. I'll need to get a picture of it. Jess says, discovered I'm down working on this TV series for a few months more. October at least. Good that you got plenty of work on, mate. That's a good thing. That's a smashing Hulk, pun intended. Rob says, are you going to paint your military orders like the studio scheme? I'm going to keep them quite similar, mate. I'm going to kind of use exactly the same scheme that I used for the Code 1 stuff, which is kind of like on snow bases and stuff like that. I think there might be some pictures online of them. But yeah, I find them a joy to paint. I love just sort of just kind of putting some music on the background, just sitting painting a world of my own kind of thing. It's nice just to kind of zone out with it. Boschi says, do we know if the new kill team rules will reflect the difference between military disciplined squad of soldiers against a chaotic horde of orcs? Will it taste like that? We don't know that much at the minute, mate, but I think what we do know is that everything's been beefed up a little bit. I think the way it sounds is what used to happen in the old rules was orcs, because they weren't particularly kind of sort of strong or clever, if you like, were a lower point cost. So they almost became a bit of a horde faction, if you like. And so what would happen is you would out activate your opponent. So if your opponent had highly specialized marines, for example, you would out activate them. What seems to be happening in the new rules is you will have, very much like Infinity, you'll have like a command pool. So you might have like, say, 6 actions. Each person has 6 actions. If I've got 3 models and you've got 10 models, I get to activate my 3 models twice each, for example, where you only get to activate 6 of your 10. So I think there might be some balancing of that kind of a mechanic type thing of like, well, these ones are kind of specialist. They get to do a couple of things as opposed to these ones who maybe are not quite so clever. But I don't think there's been enough really divulged yet to know whether that's going to be the case. VG says, is there a Spider-Verse expansion for Marvel Lunchbox Rainbow? There is kind of a Spider-Verse. There's a faction called Web Slingers. So you do have Ghost Spider, you have Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. You also have Miles Morales. I forget what else is in the Web Slingers faction. But yeah, but there's kind of like a number of different Spider-Man type things. I'll buy it if I can play Spider-Ham. Spider-Ham hasn't made it yet, mate. But it wouldn't surprise me if he does at some point. James says, I think I'll get those Death Corps of Krieg. I've been wanting to do something on snow bases and they seem appropriately bleak. They definitely have that very much kind of sort of winter coats, middle of nowhere type feel about them, don't they? Jess says, did he eat a radioactive spider and bacon? Sorry. Yeah, he was bitten by a bacon sandwich. On that amazing comment, I think I'm going to wrap it up for the night now. My voice is starting to dry out a bit after a few nights of shouting at the screen for football. Yeah, I'm starting to dry out now a bit. And Rob says, when are you going to try and get something going with Fast Panda? We'll have to sort something out, mate. I must admit, I've not got round to sorting anything like that out yet. I've been a bit swamped with other stuff, but yeah, we definitely will get something sorted. So, thank you very much, folks. Thank you for the new folks that have joined us tonight. Really nice to see some of you. It's been really nice to see all of you, to be fair. I didn't mean that the way it sounded. It's been really nice to see all of you. I'll be painting again on Wednesday for the hobby hangout. I'm not really sure what I might be doing. Maybe we'll get some of the military orders on the stream. But yes, take care, everybody. Stay safe, and I will see you all on Wednesday. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.